nais at pagdurusa ng bayan kong sinisinta. Araw-araw ay dalangin, laya'y mapasa natin. Pilipinas kong mahal, damdamin ko'y sinisigaw, galaw ng bawat sandali, ikaw ay aking babantayan. Mahal kong Pilipinas, kita'y maglilingkod hanggang wakas.
Ano tayong magagawa in the sense na nandiyan na si PRD, but I disagree na hindi importante itong hearing kasi kung may second, third, fourth batch pa yung warrants, it's important. And take note tama po ba ako, during the time that the Marawi uprising or the Marawi siege, Secretary Anyo, we were still under ICC noon, no? Kasi that was tama po, di ba? When we were in Russia. So you know, if a terrorist who survived goes to the ICC and shows them pictures of 19 women or children what were died and comes up with a witness and tells them, alam nyo, from President Duterte to Sec Anyo to the Chief of Staff to ganito, they planned this, they killed this ganito, it may be not true, it may be totally false. So if the ICC issues a warrant here, I want to make sure that every officer of the AFP has his day in court before they're sent to Hague. So valid itong hearing na to. As I said, may emotions lang, and you know, let's excuse all of ourselves kung minsan may konting emotion, but we just want to clarify this. So yun yung context ng tanong ko, Attorney Alexis, no? So kung halimbawa may warrant for whatever for Juan de la Cruz, kinuha siya based on that warrant, pero hindi siya binigyan ng enough time or enough opportunity before a Philippine judge, aren't we denying him due process? Because pagdating dun sa foreign court, as SOJ said correctly, and I agree with him, iba language, iba procedure, and everything. So isn't a Filipino citizen, doesn't he have the right under the Constitution to be judged first by Philippine law before he's brought out to a foreign country or to an international tribunal to face what their interpretation of the law is?
If I may answer,
Yes.
Your Honor, if you look at the consistent policy of the Constitution, when there is a deprivation of liberty, the consistent policy of the Constitution is to involve the judiciary. The exclusion, complete exclusion of the judiciary in the deprivation of liberty of any citizen is anathema to the principles of the Constitution. And you can see that in the different provisions of the Constitution. You can see that in the requirements for the warrant of arrest, due process, liberty of abode, criminal proceeding, criminal due process, even in the period when the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus is suspended, the Constitution mandates the government to file charges against the person. So,
last two
always.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
Constitution.
Yeah.
Okay.
Last two questions or three, then opportunity for SOJ na. So, yung pong nagugulat ako kasi even those who claim to be human rights activists, pinopost nila to sa Facebook. Again, hindi ko nila lahat. I admire many human rights activists, but even some na very well known, no? If I'm not mistaken, even former Senator De Lima, more or less may ganitong tema. Bakit? Si Duterte ba may alam na due process nung pinatay silang mga to? Diba? Bakit siya ngayon humihingi ng due process? So, my next question is due process only for the innocent? Only for the saints? Or even, first of all, President Duterte is presumed innocent. But assuming 5 times na convicted drug lord, rapist, torturer, etc., nahuli ng PNP, under our Constitution, dapat ba may due process pa rin siya?
Yes, Your Honor, if you look at the text of the Constitution, there are no names that are excluded from its application.
So even if a person, whether he's a private citizen or government, is accused of not giving due process, that's the beauty of the Constitution, di ba?
Opo.
That everyone should be given due process.
Opo.
Oo. So I just want to make that clear kasi nga, sabi ni Secretary de Lima, walang due process sa kanya. But if you go before that, nung iniimbestigahan pa lang niya si President Duterte when she was CHR and she was DOJ, wala naman siyang final na kaso. So sabi naman ni President Duterte, nung mayor pa lang siya, wala akong due process. Sinasabi na niya na guilty ako. So nung siya naman yung naging presidente, eto naman nakulong, ang sinasabi naman niyang walang due process si Duterte. So ang point ko lang, if we as Filipinos do not demand due process for everyone, DOJ and the government is not saying that they denied, but I'm just saying, no, mali yung argument sa Facebook na pag ikaw hindi mo binigyan ng due process yung kalaban, ikaw hindi ka na pwedeng kumuha ng due process. Iba po yun. Meron doctrine sa batas that those to come to court should come with clean hands. That's a different application. Anyone can come to court asking for due process, di ba? I wanted to clear that up lang, and I ask you that, Dr. Alexis, for two reasons. One, attorney, because you're a constitutional law professor. Number two, if I ask SOJ, baka ispin nung iba and they tell na meron o wala si Duterte. I'm not talking about Duterte, I'm talking about every single Filipino deserves due process. Okay. My next question is, will the Interpol, or I don't want you to make a judgment sa Interpol, no? If any foreign entity, no, comes to us and asks for an arrest, is it non-cooperation with them if we say may provisional arrest, we have him in custody, but a Philippine judge has to decide whether or not we can turn him over to you?
If I may, Your Honor, international conventions actually respect compliance with the domestic laws. Even the Rome Statute, in the cooperation, the requirement is application of the laws of the country, of the custodial state. So it's up to the custodial state how to comply. There is no issue that we should comply with all these international obligations. That's not the dispute. The dispute is how to comply, and the manner of compliance is governed primarily, of course, by the Constitution, the highest law of the land.
And that's precisely why the diffusion notice stated provisional arrest or extradition, because so this is the parallelism of what I want to make. If the ICC knows na pwedeng provisional arrest or pwedeng extradition, they give it sa Interpol, hindi naman magagalit ang Interpol kung nagbigay silang red notice at ang sagot mo sa Interpol, we have him under custody but we cannot release him to you unless a Philippine court so orders, or unless we give him enough time to seek legal remedy. Because of course, if the person doesn't seek legal remedy, para na rin yung sinurrender. Because the whole argument is that we're just helping Interpol. So I just wanted to clear that up. And again, ang hirap ng Facebook o media interview kasi hindi nakakasagot yung kabilang side. Eto, we can, I'll stop there, Madam Chair. So the point I want to make, and this is my personal stand, and I hope in a less emotional and more academic setting also, Mr. Secretaries, we can determine that, because part of life, liberty, and ano ba yung ginamit natin? Iba kasi yung sa US, di ba? Sila may pursuit of happiness. Tayo, life, liberty, and property is the peace of mind. Di ba? The peace of mind na dito, at least sa bansa ko, siyempre, hindi mo kontrolado kriminal. Diyan pumapasok, Sir Marbil, yung peace and order, assurance, etc. But at least alam ko, hindi ako pwedeng biglang arestuhin dito tapos i-try wherever, di ba? Pero kung in doubt yon, di ba? So, for example, feel free to judge Senator Bato, but I made the same statement as the Senate President that if he's in the Senate, even if beyond 6 years yung kakasuhan sa kanya, kung hindi pa nagde-decide ang Supreme Court what constitutes surrender, etc., and he seeks legal remedy, we should give, under reasonable circumstances, sanctuary to him. We did that sa sa Batasan fight. I mean, I've never been pro hindi ko na alam kung anong word ang gagamitin kasi baka sabihin red tagging, di ba? But the progressive left or whatever, di ba? During the time of President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, we were together, Secretary, di ba, na we weren't looking at their ideology, we weren't looking at guilty ba sila o hindi, we were looking at the institution and the, what you call this, the balancing ba na pag medyo sigurado na legal yung pag-arrest, etc., tayo mismo kumakausap sa kanila na lumabas na kayo dito. I think that's what happened with Senator De Lima. No? I'll stop there. Napakaraming issues. Mamaya pa na factual ang tanong ko. But, Madam Chair, if we can give the DOJ an opportunity to respond. Thank you very much, Attorney.
If you allow me, thank you very much, Attorney Medina. Thank you very much, Senator Cayetano. Before we go back to Secretary Remulla, if you will allow me, I have someone online, and given the difference in time, I'd appreciate inviting her. We'd like to recognize the Vice President, Sara Duterte, please, online. Given the difference in time.
Senator Amy.
Yes, maraming salamat. At kung pwedeng ipaliwanag lamang ng ating Vice Presidente kung bakit sinasabi ninyo na kidnapping or extraordinary rendition ang sinasabi. At gusto rin natin malaman yung tungkol sa warrant. Kayo na lang ang mag-umpisa. Salamat.
Opo, Senator Amy, may I be allowed to read the statement?
Yes, please. Please do so.
Okay, thank you. Opo. Mga kababayan, on March 11, 2025, former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte was forcibly taken by the Philippine National Police upon his arrival at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport. He was brought to Villamor Air Base, a military air base, detained for nearly 12 hours, and then flown out of the country on a private jet to The Hague, all allegedly because of a warrant issued by the International Criminal Court. This was patently an illegal arrest. This constitutes extraordinary rendition. A Filipino citizen, a former president, was taken into custody without a valid warrant issued by a Philippine court, without due process, and without any legal basis under our laws. The Constitution is clear. Section 2, Article 3 of our Constitution explicitly states, "The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures of whatever nature or for any purpose shall be inviolable, and no search warrant or warrant of arrest shall issue except upon probable cause to be determined personally by the judge after examination under oath or affirmation of the complainant and the witnesses he may produce, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized." This means that for an arrest to be lawful, it must be carried out pursuant to a warrant issued by a Filipino judge of a Philippine court. Nasaan po ang warrant of arrest na inisyo ng hukuman ng Pilipinas? Wala. Without a valid warrant from a Philippine court, this was at best a warrantless arrest. Under the rules of court, warrantless arrests are only permitted in 3 instances: in flagrante delicto, hot pursuit, and escaped prisoner. None of these circumstances applied to the case of the former president. So, what was the legal basis of his arrest? The authorities acted solely on an ICC warrant, a document that has no legal effect in the Philippines unless reviewed and validated by a Philippine court. In fact, even assuming without conceding that the government itself wished to recognize and enforce the ICC's warrant, it still violated the Rome Statute itself. Even by ICC standards, the former president should have been brought before a Philippine judge to determine the validity of his arrest before he was handed over to a foreign court. Under Article 59 of the Rome Statute, a state party which has received a request for arrest and surrender shall immediately take steps to arrest the person in question in accordance with its laws and the provisions of Part 9 and shall bring that person before the competent judicial authority in that state. Yan ang sinasabi ko paulit-ulit nung nasa labas ako ng gate ng Villamor Air Base. And why was this not done? If they claim to abide by international law and standards, then why did they conveniently choose to ignore this provision? The fact remains that we are no longer a state party to the Rome Statute. We are no longer a member of the ICC. In fact, in a letter dated December 15, 2023, the President himself wrote to me, with respect to your concerns, legal or otherwise, on the investigation to be conducted by the International Criminal Court into the previous administration's war on drugs, I remain steadfast in my resolve that the jurisdiction of the ICC over the Republic of the Philippines after the effectivity of its withdrawal therefrom is very much in question. To this end, this government will not assist the ICC in any way, shape, or form. So if the government itself has declared non-cooperation with the ICC, why did the PNP violate this very policy and enforce a foreign warrant? Even granting for the sake of argument that we have some duty to cooperate with either the ICC or Interpol, does that duty override the fundamental rights of every Filipino enshrined in our Constitution? What happened on March 11, 2025 is not just about one man. It is about all of us. It is about the country. If a former president can be taken without due process, what stops them from doing the same to any other Filipino? Therefore, we must dare to ask more questions. Under whose authority did the PNP act? Why did they enforce a foreign warrant without the Philippine court order? Why didn't they at least bring PRRD before a judge as required by the Rome Statute itself? Even more disturbing is the silence of the armed forces of the Philippines. Why did the AFP stand idly by while a former commander-in-chief was taken from a military base under questionable circumstances? How could they allow a foreign tribunal to override on our constitutional guarantees? We have now lost a former president. I pray that we do not lose the country next. Your Honor, Senators Cayetano and Marcos and other senators present, alam naman natin lahat at alam nila na mali ang ginawa nila. Ginawa nila yon just to demolish political opponents. This is all about politics. The administration is using government resources, the ICC, to demolish the opposition. Wala na tayong argument. Mali ang ginawa. Ang tanong ngayon, ano ang gagawin natin para maibalik ang dating Pangulo sa Pilipinas? Kasi nag-iisa ako ngayon dito na gumagawa ng paraan para maibalik ang ating dating Pangulo sa ating bayan. Thank you.
Maraming salamat sa ating Vice Presidente at hindi kayo nag-iisa. Lahat tayo ay naghahanap ng solusyon sa napakakomplikadong pangyayari. Ano sa palagay mo yung nakita ninyong ICC warrant? Kailan ba ipinakita? May sinabi si counsel o attorney Medialdea na hindi daw pinakita kay Pangulo Duterte hanggang sa kahuli-hulihan at redacted form pa daw. Tama po ba yun?
Yes, Honorable Senator Marcos, ang nangyari kasi, merong ICC warrant. It was diffused to Interpol. It was given to Philippine authorities. Hindi siya nagkaroon ng red notice. Kaya yung ibang bansa, hindi nila alam. Wala silang notice na merong ganong warrant. Ang nangyari, ICC, Interpol binigay sa Philippine authorities. And the Philippine authorities or the Philippine National Police, in-implement nila yung warrant, diretso doon sa akusado, hindi nila dinala sa korte natin dyan sa ating bansa.
Tama po. At yan ang pinag-uusapan namin kanina ni Executive Director Alcantara ng Transnational Crime na ang pinadala lamang ay isang diffusion. Ito ang kauna-unahang pagkakataon na ang warrant of arrest was honored by a member state. Samantalang diffusion pa lang to, wala pang compliance review, wala pang ibinibigay sa secretariat ng Interpol, walang task force yung Interpol at walang kaalam-alam yung commissioner ng Interpol. Ang sabi nga ng Interpol, si Presidente Duterte ay hindi wanted ng Interpol. Wanted daw siya ng ICC. Pinadala lang daw sa kanila. As a matter of fact, under Article 97, Section 4 of Interpol's own rules on the processing of data, it is very clear that there are so many requirements before any action can be taken. Kung pwede, ipakita natin ang itsura ng isang diffusion versus isang red notice. Ibang-iba po yun. Ni walang red notice at yung diffusion, parang sabi nga ni VP, parang tinimbre lang sa mga kasama sa Interpol ng mga miyembro. Hindi dinaan sa mismong review. So, nais natin pag-usapan at tanungin kay Executive Director. Tama po ba yun? Diffusion is something not yet verified per the articles on processing data. Tama po ba yun? Kasi yan ang rules ng Interpol, hindi po ba?
Ang diffusion po ay sa Article 97 ng Rules on Processing of Data is a standardized request
Tama.
to arrest, detain, or restrict movement
Right.
of accused.
Tama, pero
Tama
hindi pa siya verified, hindi pa siya naimbestiga, at hindi pa nailalagay bilang opisyal. Wala pang task force, wala
Tama po yan,
pang
tama po.
compliance review.
Pero hindi po ibig sabihin nun na wala siyang value.
Pero
Pareho po
mismo yung Interpol, sinasabi po sa atin na first time daw na yung member state agad-agad in-acknowledge. Wala pa namang kaalam-alam. Ang mismong Interpol Secretariat, walang kamuang-muang kasi between states lang to, ICC lang at Interpol.
whether it is a red notice or wanted person diffusion, obligado po tayong mag-comply. Hence, our job in the NCB is to distribute the diffusion notice.
Nandyan, no? Pinapakita natin yung red notice sample versus yung diffusion order. Ibang-iba po, di ba? Yung
Magkaiba po, magkaiba po.
Magkaiba, yung kay Arnie Teves yan, saka ito kay PRRD, ibang-iba po.
Magkaiba po.
Talagang hindi sila.
Magkaiba
So,
po.
admitido po ninyo, walang red notice.
Yung red notice po, wala po siyang red notice.
Walang dumating, ano?
Merong tinatawag po na
O, tama.
red
So,
diffusion.
kung ganon, sinasabi, tulad ng sinabi ni Bibi, maobligasyon ang ating pamahalaan mag-cooperate, tumulong sa lahat ng request. Yung request, hindi naman galing sa Interpol Pinapaliwanag nga ng Interpol. Hindi naman amin wanted yan. Ang sinasabi, Philippines is obliged to cooperate when in fact it came from ICC. Paulit-ulit tayo kanina sa ICC, walang jurisdiction dito sa Pilipinas. Ba't natin kinikilala? FPRRD was not wanted by Interpol. It was neither verified or approved. Hanapin mo sa buong database ng Interpol, walang lumalabas. Hanggang ngayon, it's not there. Read out the email address from the letter. Nakita mo yung letter? ICC ang nakasulat. Walang Interpol kahit sa mismong diffusion. Anong obligasyon ng Pilipinas? Kapag hindi tayo nag-comply sa isang diffusion, anong mangyayari sa atin? Hindi na tayo bahagi ng Interpol? Paparusahan tayo? May parusa po ba?
Not necessarily. Hindi po ganon.
Kapag diffusion, what will happen?
Gaya po na nasabi ko kanina, ang diffusion po at requesting for looking for wanted persons, pareho lang po na yung red notice.
Hindi po pareho yun.
Ang hindi lang po siya,
Naliwanag nito.
napakakaiba po niya,
Kababasa mo lang ng Article 97, pambihira ka
Opo.
naman, sir.
May pagkakaiba nga po eh.
Kaya
Kasi
nga.
yung red notice has to be processed by the
Pero di ba yung kay
notices.
Congressman Arnie Tevez, red notice na. Ayan, dinadaan pa rin sa proseso ng maliit at mahirap na bansa katulad ng Timor-Leste. Ayaw pa rin nila pumayag dahil ang sabi nila, dadaan muna ito sa korte natin. Ngayon tayo, lumundag tayo sa diffusion. Ano bang commitment natin? Anong mangyayari sa atin? Sinabi na natin, ICC has no jurisdiction. Tapos, ICC warrant has no effect. Tama ba yun? Eh di ano ngayon yung Interpol? May obligasyon ba tayo sa Interpol? Diffusion pa lang to.
Obligado po. Obligado.
Bakit obligado? Ano mangyayari kung di tayo sumunod?
Katulad din po yan ng mga ibang red notices na hindi natin nakukuha, but obligado rin po tayo.
Ano nga mangyayari? Anong parusa? Papaluin ba tayo? Tatanggalin ba tayo sa Interpol? Iisnabi na tayo ng buong kapulisan ng buong mundo?
Hindi ko po masasagot yung gagawin ng Interpol sa atin, but masasabi ko po we have to comply with both the diffusion and the red notice.
You have to.
We need to.
At
we
the
need
risk
to.
of what sanction?
We need to. We need to. Ayan po yung we
Okay.
exert our maximum effort to comply with those requests.
Nakakagulat lang po dahil kasi eto nga may obligasyon daw pero diffusion lang to at sabi ng Interpol first time daw nga nila na diffusion pa lang lumundag na at inaresto na kagad. Pero parang hindi naman to biglaan kasi General Marbil may memo kayo ng March 10, di po ba? May memo kayo sa kapulisan na mag-mobilize na agad-agad. Libo-libong pulis ang pinamobilize kahit hindi pa ninyo alam na may warrant. Sabi ninyo, hindi ninyo alam eh. Asan yung memo? Nariyan kanina, di ba? Aalala po ba ninyo yung memo na yan?
But anyway, ma'am,
Hindi. Yung memo, tama po ba yan o mali yung binigay sa amin? Yan po ang nakasulat na date. Tama po ba yan?
ma'am, tama po yan, no? Madam Chair, no? Ang preparation namin, although sabi ko nga, narinig po namin na there will be a possible na lumabas po yung warrant, based on sa mga dumadating na news, it's standard procedure po ng PNP na mag-prepare po in case that's a part of our planning process.
Libo-libo ang minobilize na kapulisan, gumastos ang buong pamahalaan para lamang sa isang chismis galing sa Hong Kong. Sabi po ni Secretary John Vic na chismis lang naman ang umabot sa kanila. Hindi naman sila nakatanggap ng anumang katibayan eh.
Ma'am, it's a standard, Madam Chair, it's a standard procedure ng Philippine National Police kay Chismis. So in there, we have to prepare and plan kung ano pong mangyayari eventualities po.
7,000 po? Base sa chismis? Wala kayong
No, we don't have any record ng 7,000. I believe
Yun ang
ito.
pinagmalaki sa dyaryo. Hanggang dyaryo lang naman kami.
Ma'am, wala po kami nilalabas ng ganong karaming tao. I guess it's more of, pinapilaki. But I doubt, with this number, ito lang po yung nilabas po namin tao.
Okay. So, ilan ang minobilize ninyo kung sinasabi niyo labis-labis naman ang 7,000? Sa tingin ko, labis-labis. Isipin mo, chismis lang.
Ma'am, based on the numbers, more or less, it's a total of 156. Yun lang po yung namin. But sabi ko nga doon, it's just a normal procedure.
Yung mga memo pa na sumunod dyan, alam naman ninyo yun. Ito lang yung pinakauna.
Madam Chair, I have to check po yung numbers ng tao natin.
Bakit sinabi 7,000? Nagulat naman kami. Okay lang, pero mabalik dito sa ICC warrant, walang red notice, at pati yung Timor-Leste, inisnab yung red notice, ang atin lang diffusion. Sa diffusion, ang liwa-liwanag, kailangan extradition, kailangan in conformity with national laws. I think we've established that, and without pounding it into the ground, can we ask now, ipakita muna natin ang video ni Secretary Remulla or yung transcript dun sa budget hearing po nung nakaraang taon. Ang liwa-liwanag po at maganda po ang paliwanag ni Secretary Remulla Boying. Opo.
But when it comes to them going into the country, kung gusto nila pumasok dito upang manghuhuli at magpasagawa ng warrant na kanila pong na-issue po siguro ng ICC pagdating ng panahon, kaya ho ito dumaan sa ating court system. Ito po ay kinakailangan ng isang action to enforce a warrant, action to enforce a judgment. Kailangan po dumaan yan sa ating court system. Kaya hindi ho namin pakikialaman kasi yan pa trabaho ng Interpol kung talagang gusto nilang habulin yung tao na nasasaktan. Yung sabihin natin, nag-issue po na warrant of arrest ng ICC, gusto mo enforce ng Interpol dito, pero para ho ito ay matuloy at hindi ho magkaroon ng kasuhan, kinakailangan pumunta muna sila sa korte natin. There's some things that the Supreme Court would be looking at if what was alleged in the crime would have happened when they're still members of the ICC. That is one of the things that can be of importance to the courts when they do enforce a warrant, or if they will actually allow a warrant to be served in our country from an international tribunal. Ang problema nga ho, ay mayroon po sinasabi yung mga kaibigan natin na well-meaning naman. May 200 families daw na gustong magreklamo, pero ang hawak daw nila ay malo. Pero sa malo, ang makakausap nyo, dalawa lang. Tapos yung dalawa pa, wala pang ibibigay na totoong ebidensya. Napakahirap po talaga maghabol. Ang yung nag-hearing po ang Human Rights Committee ng Kongreso tungkol dito. At ang lumalabas po talaga, yung mga nangyari po kasing EJK nung panahon na yon, wala akong police report Walang police blotter, wala akong record. Kaya napakahirap po maghabol talaga.
Yun. Napakaliwanag at napakaganda ng paliwanag ni Secretary Boying na sa ICC man yan, Interpol man yan, dadaan yan sa Korteng Pilipino.
Ma'am, ano yan Ang general rule talaga, pag may foreign judgment, you have to enforce it in court. However, ito hong nangyaring ito, ang ginamit po namin dito, Section 17 ng Republic Act
9851.
9851. Pwede ko mabasahin, ma'am? Can I read the provision
I think
into
you
the
can
record?
put it on...
Into the record? But may I read it into the record, ma'am? Thank you. In the interest of justice, the relevant Philippine authorities may dispense with the investigation or prosecution of a crime punishable under this act if another court or international tribunal is already conducting the investigation or undertaking the prosecution of such crime. Instead, the authorities may surrender or extradite suspected or accused persons in the Philippines to the appropriate international court, if any, or to another state pursuant to the applicable extradition laws and treaties. That is Section 17 of Republic Act 9851. So ito po yung option na sinasabi ko kanina.
Yes, at yan yung pinag-uusapan natin kay Attorney Medina. Baka ibig ninyo mag-comment kasi mahaba po yung sinulat ninyo tungkol dyan. 9851, Section 17, at saka si Senator Cayetano. Unahin po natin na unang ma-recognize si Attorney Medina lang po. Lahat tayo, kabisado natin yung 9851, alam natin yung Section 17, para rin yung Rome Statute, Article 59, sa panahong ito na memorize na nating lahat. Attorney po.
Thank you for the opportunity, Madam Chair. And with all due respect to our hardworking, brilliant Secretary of Justice, I beg to disagree. Purely on legal grounds, again, constitutional, doctrine of constitutional supremacy, whatever right that is granted by the Constitution cannot be diminished or be in derogation, cannot be diminished or lessened or stripped away by any statute. So if the Constitution guarantees that if a person is to be expelled from the Philippine territory by whatever means, a lawful order of the court is required. That grant that grant of the Constitution, that protection of the Constitution, cannot be lessened by any statute. So that in that case, 9851. So we have to interpret 9851 in accordance with the broad protection of the Constitution, which means that if you will surrender without judicial proceedings, that would be a violation. So there will be only a very narrow instance, there will be limited instances when surrender can be valid without judicial process. Yun lang po. Maraming salamat.
Senator Cayetano, I think you wish to add something.
When the SOJ was speaking, yung una kong temptation was to say that, as you said, no, evolution, legal theory, and for the public, no, to be fair, di ba, that happens when lawyers meet, di ba, na ito yung una kong theory, ito yung application, especially if there's no jurisprudence na prevailing, and even if there's jurisprudence, you can challenge that, of course, but the law enforcers have to follow prevailing jurisprudence. So kanina, what I was tempted to do is to ask you that, you know, when tempers are down and emotions are way, let's see which theory is better, no, whether you need a foreign when a foreign judgment or foreign arrest warrant from a foreign court or different countries here, whether we need court order or pwedeng surrender. Having said that, when I was thinking about it, what about, sir, this situation? So let's say that law authorizes the government to surrender a Philippine citizen. But if that Philippine citizen is asking for his day in court in a Philippine court, kasi kung, again, hindi ko nakita yung buong video, but nakita ko yung part, I think this is more from the videos na pinost allegedly taken by Kitty Duterte, di ba? But I just saw portions eh. So isang portion doon, nung una sinabi kay Presidente, former President Duterte na sa Hague ka dadalhin, sabi niya, patayin niyo na lang ako or you'll have to kill me. I'm paraphrasing. No, but ang point ko, if a person says that, that means he's disputing it. So my point, assuming for the sake of argument, as the state, the Philippine government, can choose Article 17 to surrender, does that take away from the person being arrested the legal remedy of questioning the action of the executive before Philippine courts?
The option is always there if it can be done. But under the circumstances, it could not be done.
So no effort was made to get any warrant from a Filipino court?
I think that they were, the whole time that everything was happening until the evening, there were even attempts to show fake orders of the courts saying that there is a TRO on the action of the PNP.
Yes,
I believe
fake
that
news.
this was being showed by E.S. Majaldea. Am I correct, General Torre? E.S. Majaldea was showing them text messages that there was a TRO. So they were attempting, they were trying the judicial option. But we already decided, it was already decided that
I think that's not
that Section 17 of Republic Act 9851 will be the one used, the surrender part.
May I clarify that, just that part,
Yes,
no?
Senator Cayetano.
So we agree, di ba, na yun, ICC or whoever may, or extradition, or basta under that law, no? Dumating dito, in-arrest, sabi nung Pilipinong inaresto, okay, no problem, I'll face court there, dalhin niyo ako doon. So, walang problema yung surrender, di ba? Kasi he or she surrendered to government, government surrendered under the definition ng surrender under that law, Section 17. But sabi mo, what was your exact word, sir? If possible, or if, ang sabi mo, nung tinanong ko SOJ na, can that person have the opportunity to question before Philippine courts?
If it's done, it can be done.
Yes.
Some people have been managed to get court orders in a matter of hours. But only in this case, wala akong nangyari.
Yes, but yun nga ang point ko. Isn't the better rule, we give them reasonable time to do that? So that we don't deprive...
Ma'am, excuse me lang kasi there is a pending petition for habeas corpus in the Supreme Court.
Okay.
We might be stepping already on
So having said
the ground that
that,
we have to
So we leave
take
it at
next
that. We have no desire to be sub judice. Thank you.
Madam Chair, can I just say this? Sir, I will respect that because nga mabigat di ba? Emotionally, legally. But can you study that part? Just for future cases, di ba?
Of course.
And when we say study, the defense lawyer will say 30 days, 6 months is reasonable. Of course, the law enforcement has to do its job. So, in case we come up with a guidance, you could return it to us, but hindi kami magpasa ng batas. But I'd answer the same na sinabi mo ngayon. If I file a draft bill defining that, baka sabihin ng court, see, you admit na pwede pala. So I also don't want to somehow interfere or influence the Supreme Court in this decision, but may I just put it at your table na ano yung reasonable for a Filipino citizen to go to court in case nga this happens. And it's valid nga kasi nga if the ICC issues whether it's Senator Bato or any of our generals or any member of the AFP, I'd like them to be able to go to court to question whatever identity, validity of etc.
Maybe Your Honor, we have to look at the perspective of how long this took for the ICC to come up with a warrant. This did not happen overnight. I believe that even Senator Bato has told you that he has received written interrogatories coming from the ICC. He's being given his day to explain whatever side he has on the ICC controversy.
Kaya
Senator Bato himself has answered that. I'm sure that the former president was given the chance by the ICC. I mean, I don't think that 125 countries would agree to bully somebody and not give him a chance to explain. I think that it goes beyond convention that we will allow this to happen.
Yes, Secretary
Chair.
and Senator Cayetano.
I think I'd like to agree to disagree with you on that part. No, kasi yung questions ko later on are factual. Kasi if you look, I don't know if it was the Solgen, we asked the ICC to pause, to stop diba? And number two, iba kasi yung sa akin na mag-explain ka sa Philippine court at mag-explain ka doon. And lastly, sir, I get your point, 125 countries. But President Trump, the US President just said na panay politika ang ICC, sinanction niya and everything. So I can also make the same agreement. US is the greatest country in the world, next to the Philippines, of course. The US is the land of the free. The US ganyan. So if the US thinks the ICC, so I'm respecting your opinion na fair ang ICC, 25, etc. No? However, yun nga ang point ko. The President is almost 80 years old. If the case take out jurisdiction, if the case takes about 6 years, he'll be 86. If it takes 8 years, 88. Kung si Enrile yun, okay lang. When he gets there at 80, he'll be out at 88. He's 101 years old. I'm not saying okay lang ipadala si Enrile. I'm saying he's blessed with longevity and di ba sa LEDAC naglalabi pa nagano kung anong tingin niyan tama. But my point is, sir, yung ako personally naghahalo na yung legal at emotion pag sinabing nandun na siya, dun siya magpaliwanag. Kasi nga Pilipino na pinadala doon. But I'll agree to disagree with you there and stop there. Madam.
Maraming salamat at nais ko lang balikan itong sinasabi natin. Kung talagang nagpursige ang Pilipinas na pumunta sa korte dito sa lokal, sa Philippine Court, may idadagdag yata si BP dyan sa komentaryo tungkol dito kung bakit hindi pinadaan pa sa Filipino Court. Samantalang marami naman tayong korte, ang ating mga huwes ay magagaling. Yes, please, VP po.
Yes, thank you, Senator Marcos. Ang gusto ko lang gawin is, unang-una, meron kasing document galing sa ating Pangulo papunta sa akin na sulat, no, na lumabas dahil kinuha siya sa isang lawyers group chat. Hindi namin alam kung sino ang kumuha at inilabas siya. Gusto ko lang na isubmit ito as part of the records of this hearing kasi as a Filipino and as a public official, binasa ko yung ating protesta doon sa ICC at yung decision ng ICC. At nakita ko na wala talagang jurisdiction. Pero alam ko na merong ginagawang investigation dahil nabibigyan kami ng data or information galing sa mga law offices na ginagamit dyan sa loob ng Pilipinas sa pag-interview ng witnesses. Kaya kinausap ko unang-una ang Secretary of Justice noon. At dahil hindi paiba-iba yung sagot niya sa mga tanong ko, ang ginawa ko ay dumiretso ako sa Pangulo. Kaya yon, nabigyan ako ng sagot ng Pangulo at gusto kong basahin ang kabuuan ng sulat. Kalagay dito, Dear Vice President Duterte, this is reference to your letter of 4 December 2023 as well as similar letters sent to members of the Cabinet, namely Secretary Jesus Crispin C. Remulla of the Department of Justice and Solicitor General Menardo Guevara on even dates with respect to your concerns, legal or otherwise, on the investigation to be conducted by the ICC into the previous administration's war on drugs. I remain steadfast in my resolve that the jurisdiction of the ICC over the Philippines after the effectivity of its withdrawal therefrom is very much in question. To this end, this government will not assist the ICC in any way, shape, or form. I am certain that all the members of my cabinet, including yourself, will echo my views on this matter. As it is my sworn duty, I will continue to defend and assert the sovereignty of the Republic of the Philippines at all times. Ngayon, naririnig ko po, sinasabi ng ating Secretary of Justice na mabibigyan siya ng panahon na makasagot sa loob ng ICC. And that is clearly the Philippine government's position that there is cooperation with ICC. So kinikilala na nila ngayon yung jurisdiction ng ICC na wala naman kasi talaga. Because this is an extraordinary case of extraordinary rendition. At pangalawa, Senator Amy, gusto ko na sumagot ang Armed Forces of the Philippines kung bakit nila pinayagan na mangyari ito. Because under the law, the Presidential Security Command is in charge of the security of former presidents. So bakit nila hinayaan na mangyari ito sa isang dating Pangulo ng ating bayan? And finally, I request that I leave the meeting, the hearing, because I have to prepare for meetings as well here this morning at 9 a.m. Thank you very much, our honorable senators, mga kababayan.
Maraming salamat, VP. Maitatanong lang, kailan yung date nung sinasabi mong sulat mula sa Pangulo natin?
Ang date ng kanyang sulat ay December 15, 2023.
2023. Iba pang sulat pala ito. At maraming salamat at hihingin natin ang sagot ng ating AFP tungkol sa PSG at yung okasyon sa Villamor. Maraming salamat, VP. Kung may mga iba pang mga hearing, sana makadalo ka rin. Thank you.
Opo, salamat.
Okay, I think that's posited to Secretary Teodoro. Nawala
Yes,
na yata si General Larida.
No, ma'am, I will answer all the questions regarding the Armed Forces of the Philippines. As we said, we were deputized to support the Philippine National Police. And it is part of the constitutional duty of the armed forces to follow processes. And if we were to question those orders, even under color of law, under color of right, then it would amount to the armed forces acting unilaterally on its own, which is anathema to civilian authority over the military. As we said, our jurisdiction ends in providing support to the Philippine National Police. And with respect to the Presidential Security Command that is a highly secure unit and operational security is strictly followed. That ends my response, Your Honor.
Yes, nakakapagtaka lang kasi facility ninyo yung Villamor. Ang inimbita namin yung Air Force. Wala po rito. Bakit?
Your Honor, because of the fact that we will not go into operational details, and I made the call that the armed forces will answer in the light of our supporting role and not principal role to the Philippine National Police.
Yes, pero narito si General Larida. Anong nais niya yung sabihin?
Madam Chair, I defer to the wisdom of the Honorable Secretary of National Defense. That is, the AFP's role is to support the Philippine National Police. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Kahit sa Villamor mismo. Kahit sa lugar ninyo mismo, kampo ninyo eh.
Yes, sir. Yes, Madam Chair.
Ganun. O sige, ganun ang sagot. So, okay. Balikan po natin itong enforceability ng ICC warrant. Sa pakiwari ba ninyo yung nasa constitution natin, yung sinasaad paulit-ulit ng ating Professor Medina, Article 3, Section 2, na kinakailangan may arrest warrant issued upon discovery of probable cause by a judge, a Filipino judge. Sa palagay ba ninyo, yung judge dito kasama na yung ICC judge?
Ma'am, we invoke the sub-judice rule, ma'am. We cannot answer any more questions relating to the arrest.
So sa palagay ninyo, yung ICC, does it have any judicial power in the Philippines? Kasi di ba yung judicial power sa atin, ang klaro-klaro naman Article 8, ang liwanag, di ba? Supreme Court and such lower courts, di ba?
Recognized by the Republic Act 9850, ma'am.
Nung recognized ng 9851, wala naman sinabi doon tungkol sa judicial.
International Tribunal.
Sorry?
International Tribunal, ma'am. Can I read the provision again into the record?
No, we've read it and
Yes.
we're all very, very familiar.
Yes.
Opo. So, ang sinasabi nyo, ICC hindi po kasama. Yun lang, yes or no lang po.
Basta sinabi yung International Tribunal, it belongs to that class, ma'am.
Sa palagay ninyo, International Tribunal, sakop na yung ICC. Kahit
Sakop po, sakop. Ito malinaw po eh.
Pero
Oh,
hindi na tayo member, di ba? Sabi ng DFA.
hindi ko naman yung membership ang pinag-uusapan dito eh. Ang pinag-uusapan po rito, crimes against humanity. International humanitarian law.
Pero nagkasundo na tayo.
Murder po ito, murder, executions, extrajudicial killings. Ito po yung sinasakop ng IHL mo.
Sige, balik tayo sa Prosecutor General kasi agree to disagree na naman tayo. Even if Secretary Remulla in his budget hearing asserted that a local court action was necessary in order to enforce an ICC warrant, you proceeded to take part in the serving of the warrant and arresting PRRD. Andito ba yung prosecutor natin?
Mama, he had to attend to something very important in the office. That's why I was the one who
So you
volunteered to go
confirm
here.
that even though there was no local court action, you went ahead with this anyway?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, of course you can.
Confirm. But ma'am, can we lessen our discussion on this because it's sub judice, ma'am. It's a subject of a habeas corpus case in the Supreme Court, which the children of the former President Duterte themselves filed.
Yes, we're well aware of the consolidated cases. Was this warrant presented to PRRD at the time he was arrested? Kasi may katanungan, di ba? At may sinasabi si Attorney Medialdea na hindi daw pinakita sa Pangulo. Pwede bang may sumagot? Si General Torre, mukhang kabisado niya. Siya yung nasa video eh.
Again, ma'am?
Hindi. Yung warrant nung natanggap ninyo yung warrant, naipakita ba yung ICC warrant sa Pangulo? Kay Pangulo Duterte, pinakita ba ninyo sa kanya? Nung inaresto siya, di ba, obligado kayo magpakita ng warrant.
Yes, ma'am.
Anong pinakita nyo?
Right at the tube, ma'am, the Yusik Nikiti, together with PG Fadulyon, together with me, gave them the electronic copy through
retired General Monteagudo, ma'am, because that's their condition. They don't recognize the diffusion order. They really want to have a copy of the warrant. That's why soft copy was given to them on the tube. And a hard copy was printed and later on received by Attorney Delgra in the 250th wing, sir. 250th wing, ma'am.
May pagkakataon ba si former president na basahin to? Kasi ang pagkaintindi, hindi. Tingnan natin muna yung video kasi mas maliwanag doon.
Pag umaresto ka ng tao, pag inaresto ka ng pulis, pwedeng hindi dala ng pulis ang warrant mo. Pwede. Sasabihin na ng pulis kayo, oy, arestado ka, may warrant ka. Nasaan ang warrant? Doon sa istasyon, halika na. That's perfectly illegal. Pag umaresto ka ng tao, pag inaresto ka ng pulis, pwedeng hindi dala ng pulis.
Ang sabi po ninyo, hindi naman kailangan yung warrant kaya hindi ninyo pinakita. Tama po ba yun?
Ma'am, that is a very, very different interview in the aftermath. But I'm talking of...
Anong pinag-uusapan sa interview?
And I'm talking about we have already veered on the general rules on the warrantless, on the service of the warrants. Because during the time, and up to this time, there are still a lot of people saying that I'm wrong in there, that you cannot arrest a person with a warrant that you know of. Do you know as a person has a warrant, yet you cannot serve it without the physical warrant. So, all the lawyers know here
Diba
that I'm right there.
Kailangan ng warrant as soon as practicable. At hinihingi talaga ni former president. Di ba hinihingi niya? Hinihingi ng abogado niya asan yung warrant? Tama, di ba? Hinihingi
Yes,
nila.
ma'am.
Anong pinakita nyo?
We gave them the electronic copy of the warrant and it was given to them by Yusek Nikiti together with PG Fadulion. It was received by
Yung
General
warrant, anong klase yung
Monteagudo.
itsura ng warrant? ICC, Interpol?
It's an ICC warrant, ma'am.
ICC warrant.
Yes, ma'am. That was directed to the Interpol. That was the attachment of the diffusion order.
Pero ayon sa ating batas, di ba? Napakaliwanag naman na yung court o judge, kinakailangan Pilipino. Di naman sakop noon yung Interpol, yung ICC. Bakit naging warrant rin sa Pilipinas yun?
I will defer the answering to that question to the DOJ, ma'am, because I was with the DOJ during the time, and it was the DOJ.
Hindi, nandun si Prosecutor Fadulion Ikaw naman
Yes, ma'am.
bumasa ng Miranda rights, hindi man lang yung prosecutor. Tinikoberan mo na yung papel ng DOJ, kaya sumagot ka ngayon.
Ma'am, we're talking in the tube.
Hindi, sinabi mo kasi, ang liwaliwanag, sinabi mo, hindi naman kailangan ng warrant
It's a different matter, ma'am. Altogether different matter.
Bakit? Ilang warrant ba yan?
One warrant, but different. That question on the interview is a different situation, ma'am.
So, kailan mo pinakita yung warrant? Yung sinasabi mo electronic copy?
The first time, ma'am, it is not
At kanino?
me. It was not me who showed the warrant. It was Yusek Nikiti together with PG Fadulion, together with me there in the tube of the plane. The former president is still there inside the plane. It was given to retired General Monteagudo, who is with the party. And because during the time, E.S. Mijaldea and the wife and Attorney Delgra had already went back inside the plane and told us, hindi kami lalabas kung wala kayong maipakitang warrant.
Kaya nga, so, when was the accused finally shown the warrant of arrest? Diba dapat as soon as practicable ang sinasabi? Kailan mo pinakita mismo kay former president?
I believe, ma'am, the electronic copy is already acceptable now in the rules of court.
Yun na nga, pero pinakita mo ba kay Presidente Duterte?
It was not me who they invited inside the plane. It was the PCTC through General Alcantara, whom they invited inside the plane showing to them and explaining to them the warrant.
Ganun ba? Napaliwanag ba ninyo, Executive Director Alcantara? Kasi parang ang bilis-bilis lang naman ninyo dun sa eroplano. Ang nakita naming final warrant, 15 pages po. Ganun lang kabilis na nabasa
Tama po yung
agad?
15 pages po, pero i-present po namin kay President Duterte na nasa
Nabasa niya
250.
lahat, 15 pages? Ang bilis-bilis lang lumabas eh.
Hindi po niya nabasa yun.
Hindi niya nabasa.
Hindi niya.
So, bakit
Doon po namin present sa kanya.
kaya nga, pero ba't hindi niyo pinagbigyan na basahin? Kasi karapatan talaga ng akusado at ng arestado yan, di ba?
At that point in time, ang may kopya po ng warrant ay si General Alex Monteagudo. Nagbabapiring po sa telepono niya. Matagal pong mabuo dahil
Siyempre, nasa airport.
kaya
Tapos nasa loob ng
nga po.
aeroplano.
Kaya nga
So,
po,
madaling sabi,
Kaya nga po nag-print kami ng hard copy. So pagdating po sa 250, doon na binigay sa kanila yung warrant.
Madam Chair, just on the warrant.
yes, Senator Cayetano, please go ahead.
Just one insight on the warrant, and just to bolster my point kanina na bakit mas maganda na, or bakit essential for me my local court, no? If you look at paragraph 12, before you look at it, can anyone in the room here tell me, I know the former president was accused of extrajudicial killing, of crimes against humanity. Pag sinabi yung torture, pwede kasing bago mo patayin, di ba? Pwedeng emotional torture, pwede mong gulpihin torture. So, included na yan. But does anyone here, can anyone tell me here that during his 6 years and before that, he was accused of ordering or himself raping people? Di ba? I do remember malaking issue about his statements about a missionary who was raped, and inexplain niya yon na frustrated, galit siya. But is anyone here accusing the former president of raping or ordering the rape? Parang wala naman, di ba? Okay, if you look at, dahil walang, just for the record, Madam Chair, dahil wala naman nagtaas ng kamay or nagsabi, paragraph 12, the chamber notes that the prosecution alleges, let me say it again, the chamber notes that the prosecution alleges that some acts amounting to crimes against humanity of torture and rape under Article 7, subparagraphs 1 Bayan F 71 G of the statute were committed as a widespread and systematic attack against the civilian population. Ulitin ko the chamber notes that the prosecution alleges. So the prosecution in the ICC alleges that some acts amounting to crimes against humanity of torture and rape were committed as part of a widespread and systematic attack. For me, it's the first time I read that someone was accusing the president, the former government. But if you look at the last page of the warrant, or second to the last page, page 14, no? Issues a warrant of arrest. So, for these reasons, the chamber hereby issues a warrant of arrest for Rodrigo Roa Duterte, born on 28 March 1945, for his alleged criminal responsibility pursuant to Article 25, Paragraph 3, Paragraph A of Statute for the Crime Against Humanity of Murder, pursuant to Article 7.1A, wala yung G na rape, committed in the Republic of Philippines during the relevant period as set forth in this warrant of arrest. So I just want to make this point, Madam Chair. So kung sa akin nangyari to, pupunta ako sa Philippine court at sasabihin ko sa Philippine court, sir, makita mo naman, sa Marites at Chismis kinuha ng prosecutor ng ICC. Padadala mo ako doon, pinakamaikse, 4 to 6 years yung hearing, deprived of liberty. Yung prosecutor mismo nag-allege ng rape. The harshest critics of President Duterte accuse him of being insensitive to women, saying misogynist, masama yung etc. And I won't defend him there. It's on the record, di ba? And also accused him of being insensitive to a foreign national who was a missionary here who was raped. But I haven't heard na inaccuse siya ng rape or ordering rape. Ang alam ko nga, galit na galit siya pag-ministrate yung mga kababaihan. So, dun pa lang, questioning ko to before a Philippine judge. Kasi, kawawa naman ako pag nandun. So that's my point. So, the second point I just want to make kay SOJ is, I personally will respect the it's sub judice because this case in the Supreme Court is so important. But just for the record, nag-rule na rin, kung hindi ako nagkakamali, nag-rule din ang Supreme Court dyan na we cannot stop the hearing or we can continue kahit na sub judice. But he's not asking naman to stop the hearing. He's just saying, can we be sensitive to that? Because they're gonna have to put their position on paper and present it before the Supreme Court. So, mamaya, Madam Chair, more factual na lang yung mga tanong ko rather than issues para yung facts naman, SOJ is not naman under dispute, di ba? And will help us pa nga sa doon. But this is just an example. And I just read this morning, pero nagulat lang ako doon na yung prosecutor pala may ganun allegation, no? Oo.
Kaya nga nagkagulantaan. Palibasa, nakita natin yung warrant much later. Did any one of you, General Marbil, General Torre, meron ba kayong hawak na ICC warrant of arrest at the time of his arrest? Parang electronic copy lang, tapos pinakopya muna, tapos binigay na pagdating doon. Bakit ganun? Samantalang March 10 pa lang nagmo-mobilize na ng libu-libong pulis. Pagkatapos alam na natin na magkakaganito dahil nabalitaan na nga sa Hong Kong. Kung ganun, bakit walang warrant doon sa mismong pag-aresto? Electronic copy lamang at nagpa-imprenta pa. Ba't nagkaganon?
May I differ on the wisdom of the SOJ to explain on the legality of the electronic copy of the warrant, ma'am?
Hindi naman tinatanong yung legality. Okay lang yun. Ang tinatanong ko, bakit parang unprepared kayo samantalang prepared na si General Marbil?
Madam Chair, I just want to make clear na ang kabaho po ng police is really to assist po yung PCTC natin. Yun po yung and what we have is tama po yung sinasabing order ng diffusion. So ito po yung nangyari, we rely po dun sa PCTC, dun sa lahat ng mga documents that they need na gagamitin po dun sa effect ng arrest. Ito po yung ginawa po ng again, uulitin ko, we are...
dapat yung PCTC nagdala ng warrant. Ba't nga ba kayo walang warrant?
It was stated, ipapadala po through the diplomatic channels state po yun
So, dapat diplomatic channel. Nangyari ba yon? Kung diplomatic channel yung DFA, ano ba nangyari sa warrant na yan? Sa dinami-dami ng handa ninyo, sa libo-libong pulis at sundalo na kinalampag, wala bang nag-isip na kinakailangan dalhin yung warrant?
Your Honor, if I may, wala po kaming information o wala kaming natanggap at all.
Kayo naman sa PCTC, wala rin kayong natanggap?
We requested for a copy of the warrant and we got it the next day.
The next day being?
The warrant that came from the
Kaya nga, what day
system. The next day is 12.
So, hindi rin ninyo naipakita kay Presidente Duterte? Bale tama, si General Torre, na warrantless arresto.
Pinakita po namin yung hard copy sa 250, pero sa lawyers po natin pinigay.
Madam Chair, can I clarify?
Kasi ang sinasabi din na redacted copy lang ang binigay, hindi rin kompleto, kaya hindi nila mabuo. At yun nga, nagkagulatan
Can I clarify that? Sir, it was a sealed warrant, correct? Hindi.
Hindi po. Electronic yung nakuha po na...
No. Ano ang pinadala ng ICC? Kasi parang sa ibang news report, sabi sealed. Pag sealed kasi, hindi dadaan ng DFA yon. So yun nga ang question.
What was sealed, sir, was the warrant of arrest was sealed before March 11.
Yes. Tapos kanino, sir, pinadala? Sino magbubukas noon pag sealed?
When they demanded a copy of the warrant, we relied on our fail-safe mechanism. We have a fail-safe mechanism to make sure that the documents are secure in our possession. So it's the DOJ that produced the warrant.
Hindi sa may bias ako sa DFA, but I've worked with these people. Kasi pag sealed, may option na hindi padaanin sa kanila. At kahit pinadaan sa kanila, I don't think they have the authority to open it. Diba?
Yes, but we had to use our fail-safe because the PCTC could not produce the warrant, so we had to use our fail-safe.
But once naman it's opened by the by the proper authority who's allowed to open it, di ba, to unseal it, then, syempre, Philippine law na. Ipapakita mo talaga dun sa na...
Yes, we showed it to the president and to his lawyers.
Teka, mapapaliwanag lang ako. Tell me candidly, at the time you apprehended PRRD, nung inaresto si former president, yung ICC warrant, nasa inyo na ba, General Torre? Yung totoo. Kasi you're under oath, alalahanin.
Yes, ma'am. It is with us.
It was already with you.
Yes,
Electronic.
Yes, ma'am.
Electronic. Wala
Yes,
kayong official copy?
Electronic
O walang
copy, ma'am,
hard
given
copy?
electronic copy given to me by Yusik Nikiti of the DOJ, ma'am.
Sa DOJ. Sa inyo, kasi parang nagtuturoan kayo, sabi ninyo, na dapat yung PCTC ang nagbigay. Pero wala kayong binigay. Sabi ninyo, dapat DFA. Nalilito po ako.
Hindi po. Hindi po nagtuturoan. We had the copy of the warrant, not electronic copy of...
Dinami-dami
Yusek
nang
P.
nag-aresto kay Presidente. Walang nag-isip na kinakailangan bigyan ng kopya na hard copy, opisyal, at talagang...
Binigyan po namin sa...
Saan? Saan at
250 po,
kailan?
binigyan po namin. Nung ma-print na po yung hard copy.
Saan yun?
Sa 250 po.
Sa Villamor?
Meron po, meron.
Ano yung 250 po?
Sa Villamor po, Villamor. Binigyan po siya ng kopya, hard copy po.
So, nandun. Anong oras?
About shortly before 12 po. Around 12, around noon at that time po.
Noon. Noon time? Naibigay ng noon time?
Opo.
Pero anong oras ba hiningi? Di ba napakaaga pa noon?
Humihingi po sila from the tube. Starting from the tube, humihingi na po
Anong
sila.
oras yun? Nung hiningi
When they
sila?
arrive po, it's about 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
Or,
So, 2 oras makalipas bago ninyo naibigay?
Ma'am, just to be clear,
Yes.
General Torre, maybe you can explain the process of serving the electronic copy, which constitutes a legal form of serving the warrant. Yes, ma'am. After they disembarked, as I have learned from General Torre, they asked that it be postponed, that they be brought first to... Ano ba nangyari doon, General, pagkatapos doon?
They only disembarked when the electronic copy was produced and given to them. So, kaya sila lumabas. And when they step out of the plane, at the junction of the moving part of the tube, PG Fadulyon met them and attempted to read the rights to President Duterte. And all of them said, pwede ba mamaya na yan at pa-diffuse muna natin ang tension. Doon na lang sa 250th Airlift Wing. So, we acceded to that request. We arrived at the 250th Airlift Wing. They were given refreshments. They were allowed to refresh. They were allowed to, para generally pababain lang ang tension ng lahat. And then we, after an hour or two, we returned, and that was the video that you saw when I was reading the rights in the cell phone. It's basically, it's memorized already. So just a formality. And then they asked, at that juncture, they asked for the written, they want the printed copy. So I went out of the room, stepped out of the room, printed it, and gave it to them.
Okay, yung printed copy, may allegation na redacted copy daw to. Hindi daw kumpleto, hindi daw buo. Parang simplified lang or pinaiklian. Tama ba? O buong buo?
Buong buo yun, ma'am. It was
Ilang pahina?
15 pages.
Yung 15 pages na kumakalat ngayon,
Yes,
yun na
ma'am.
yun?
Yes,
So yun
ma'am.
din ang naibigay doon sa Villamor?
Yes, ma'am. That was properly received by Attorney Delgra in a signed
So Attorney
receiving copy.
Delgra.
Yes, ma'am.
Pero nakita ko sa ating video na iba ang pangyayari tungkol sa abogado. Pwede bang panoorin natin?
Kanina pa eh. Hindi naman ilan ang hinuli ngayong araw na to, sir? Sa iba-ibang mga krimen. Ilan ang binigyan ng ganitong...
Kasi nandito kayo lahat eh. Nag-iisang tao.
Ilan ang binigyan ng
Nag-iisang tao. Ang dami ko rin sa labas.
Siya daw kayo, eh.
Sir, hindi ko humingi ng pabor. Just invoke Article 59
Bakit hindi yan magawa-gawa?
Attorney, you will
Let
remember.
me tell you the point that I'm saying.
Please lang, bawal hawakan.
Attorney, you will be
Bawal
remembered.
hawakan! Bawal hawakan. Tumayo ko na lang. Bawal
The right to
hawakan.
counsel is something that has to be observed and respected.
Please, kaya na kayo pakialam sa kanya.
Kasi nga,
Nag-uusap pa kami ng lawyer.
nag-uusap pa kami.
Huwag na tayo.
Nag-uusap pa kami.
Huwag mo hawakan ng lawyer. Huwag mo hawakan.
Nag-uusap pa kami.
Huwag mo hawakan. Huwag mo. Hindi mo hawakan.
Attorney, please.
Huwag mo hawakan.
Is this what you want? Is this what you want, Mr. President?
Huwag mo hawakan. Time lang eh.
Kayo mga
Huwag mo hawakan yung nanay ko! Tangina mo!
Hindi, kayo mga sundalo, tanungin ko kayo, anong kasalanan ko?
Okay, dito sa video nakikita na si General Torre hinihila yung abogado. Standard procedure po ba ito ng PNP? Bakit mo kinakaladkad yung abogado? Hindi ba karapatan ng isang akusado, arestado na magkaroon ng abogado? Bakit ayaw ninyong palapitin yung abogado?
Gabi na ho yan, ma'am. That's already the time that I'm forcing everyone to board the plane. I'm already forcing the former president to board the plane, ma'am. Tapos na yung napakarami ng optics sa kanilang ginawa dyan, ma'am. And
Interesting use po of force. You were forcing them. So
Yes,
you
ma'am.
admit you forced them. You
I
use
have
violence.
to. I have to because they won't go with us voluntarily, ma'am. So I have tried all the lahat ng pakiusap ay ginawa
General
namin buong
naman, sa
araw.
dinami-dami ng pulis, ang tanda-tanda na, may sakit pa. Sa palagay mo, masisindak pa yun. O kaya bang lumaban nun?
In fairness to the president, ma'am, after I handcuffed E.S. Mijaldea and told Attorney Delgado that he's the next one to be handcuffed and boarded on the bus, the former president actually acceded and said, sige na, alis na tayo. And you saw that on video.
Well,
It was
nakita namin,
Romy.
di ba, hinihila mo yung upuan. Hindi ba dapat, talagang General Torre, kailangan makinig ka doon sa sinasabi ng abogado? Di ba karapatan nun?
I have already arrested, I even arrested E.S. Mijaldea, ma'am, for obstruction of justice and placed handcuffs on him. That was already the last parts because masyado ng gabi, aabutin na kami ng umaga doon, ma'am. It's
Ilang
already
oras na?
unreasonable.
2 oras pa lang. Kalalanding lang ng Hong Kong ng alas 10. Alas
12
12
hours.
pa lang to.
12 hours, ma'am.
Kaya nga, anong oras to? Kasi
Mga
sabi
7
mo
o'clock
kanina, 10 o'clock.
Mga 8 o'clock yan,
dumating.
ma'am. Yung kay Delgra.
O, anong oras na yun?
Mga 8 o'clock yan, ma'am.
Sa umaga na yan? Gabi?
7 o'clock, 8 o'clock ng gabi na yan, ma'am.
8
Si
a.m.
Delgra.
Ay, 8 p.m.
Yes,
Eh,
ma'am.
gano'ng katagal na yon?
10 hours, ma'am. 9 hours.
Naka 9 to 10 hours na. So, sa palagay mo, si former president had sufficient chance to challenge na the validity of the arrest. So, sinasabi ninyo na 9 to 10 hours na yan. Kasi nakuha niya yung warrant nung alas 12 mahigit. Hating gabi lampas, ano? Tapos,
Tanghali, ma'am. Tanghali, ma'am. Niya nakuha ang warrant.
okay. Tapos, tumagal pa sila ng ilang oras. Ng 11 hours, sinasabi po ninyo.
Yes, ma'am. They attended to serve the warrant at when they disembarked. They asked that it be deferred until they reached 250. Upon reaching 250, they asked for some refreshments and they cooled down. Upon being more calm and after conferring with their lawyers, the warrant of arrest was served in toto, in full, and their rights were read.
So sa tingin ninyo, itong 9 to 10 hours sapat na para sa isang pangkaraniwang tao na makakuha ng sariling abogado, tapos i-check yung kanyang warrant, pagkatapos mag-draft, mag-file ng maayos na petisyon ng habeas corpus. Ganun ba yun?
Ma'am, you must, I think the record showed that there were 3 lawyers with him in conference with him during the entire time. Attorney Delgra.
Paano makakapag-file yun? Gabing-gabi na, hindi naman court hours.
They had filed a case of a TRO with the Supreme Court. They tried their legal remedy. It was duly recorded and there was no TRO given by the court, ma'am. So, ma'am, just to be clear, they had their chance to seek legal remedy, as shown by the actions of their lawyers by approaching the Supreme Court. So there was no due process denied, ma'am.
Siguro sasabihin ko, tatanungin ko kay Attorney Medina, ang ating constitutionalist po rito. Masasabi ba natin na nabigyan si PRRD ng sapat na pagkakataon para alamin itong validity ng kanyang, yung katotohanan ng kanyang pag-aaresto? Ilang oras ba yung sinasabi natin na sufficient time, yung sapat na panahon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to clarify, I will just be consistent with the opinion that I posted, that there was no reasonable opportunity. That is not to denigrate or cast aspersion on the character or competence of our officials. And also, I have very limited facts when I wrote the opinion. But just to, as a comparison, if you filed an extrajudicial proceeding, if you will file a petition, the court will order the arrest. The subject of the arrest will have the opportunity to answer, and then the court will have the opportunity also present evidence. The court will have the opportunity to weigh the evidence, and then issue the ruling. For example, in the case of Mark Jimenez, he had more or less over a year to dispute his extradition. So if that would be the standard, that might be considered reasonable opportunity to be heard.
So yung sinasabi nila na naka-10 oras na nag-iintay, talagang panay pa rin ang tutol, hindi sapat na panahon yun. Kasi magpipila ka pa ng kaso, magdadraft ka pa ng petition, dadalhin mo pa. Hindi po ba? So hindi pa rin sapat kahit sabihin natin matagal sila nandun sa airport?
I will just be consistent with what I wrote, Your Honor. My initial view was yes, 6 hours, office hours, or less, 5 hours, to seek relief from the courts may not be characterized as reasonable opportunity to be heard. Of course, that is disputable. That's just my personal opinion with limited facts. I'm sure the officers concerned have good reasons, and that can easily be disputed in court. Thank you.
Yes, para sa amin medyo mabigat nga yung 4-5 oras na bukas ang korte, no? Kasi hindi naman pwede yung hating gabi at hindi naman bukas pa. Talagang alam natin itong mga extradition at kung ano-ano pa, talagang taon-taon niya tumatagal. Hindi oras-oras, kahit naiinip na tayo. Kahit sinasabi ni General Torre, nakakapikon na yung optics nila. Kung ano-ano nang ginagawa, kinakailangan pa rin binibigyan natin ng pagkakataon. So, sa palagay mo, ilang oras ba dapat? Kasi hindi naman bukas ang korte nun, hindi naman office hours eh. Yes, Senator Cayetano po.
No, Madam Chair, konting latitude lang from SOJ because kanina we agreed to disagree already, and kaya nga ang appeal ko sa kanya to make rules kung ano ang reasonable time. And since my wife is a mayor and I was speaker and DFA secretary before, I do understand from the enforcement point of view, di ba? Sa police, sir. Siyempre, pag may huhulihin, mission-oriented kayo eh. Parang yung military, di ba? Ang mission nyo, ma-arrest, di ba? But that's why nga, meron kang Solgen, meron kang SOJ, meron DILG. So, ang viewpoint ng DILG, ng police, ng NBI, halimbawa, hulihin at yung, ma-return yung warrant successfully, di ba? But, even si E.S. Miguel Dia, who, remember, he was, you can call it a vacation or a working trip in Hong Kong, na rally, sinamahan lang, didn't expect a 20-hour flight, didn't expect to do all of this. And he only saw the president, former president, an hour before he appeared before ICC, and hindi naman niya alam yung rules ng ICC, etc. So, ito ang sinabi niya, di ba? 2 days ago, the world has witnessed the degrading fashion in which a former president of a sovereign country was bundled into a private aircraft and summarily deported to The Hague. To us lawyers, this would be called an extrajudicial rendition. To the less inclined, it was pure and simple kidnapping. My client was denied all access to the legal recourse in the country of citizenship and this all in the nature of political score setting. So I won't read the score setting, etc. Alam naman natin lahat. But just to go down, ito, sabi niya. So 1, 2, 3, 4. On the 5th paragraph, I have not been able to explain to him what the prosecution requested when seeking the issuance of arrest warrant. This is because the chamber only established a redacted version of the prosecution last night. Other than to identify myself, my client is not able to contribute anything to this hearing. I cannot speak for former ES Miguel Dia. Ang impression lang, at least sa internet at sa amin, I talked to him. He's the only one I talked to. I haven't talked to the Vice President since 2018 or 2019. I saw President Duterte, parang 2022 pa, I'm not sure, no? But ang point ko, tama-tama nung may kinakamusta ako dun sa Netherlands, katabi niya si ES, ang sinabi lang niya sa akin at that time, wala sa ospital, pinangako sa amin dalhin sa ospital, pumunta kami dito sa center, detention, wala daw Rodrigo Duterte or President Rodrigo Duterte. 30 minutes later naman after talking, it was on the news, so that's all public record. So I haven't talked to him, so I don't know kung ano yung stand niya. But I did hear SILG say that naka-tape naman lahat to. So I'm not going to ask you to produce it now, dahil may court dates pa kayo, but at the right time, just for the committee's accuracy and to be precise in our findings, yun nga, if there are parts na ibigay nyo where sinasabi at pinapakita yung warrant, ano yung warrant, or a copy of what he showed, I'm just saying that we will go back and forth kasi consistent naman kanina pa. Yes,
we have a picture here if we can show
okay.
you, but maybe General Torre can approach.
Yeah,
and share
no,
the picture.
sa committee or after, or if you want to show, ang point ko lang, factually consistent naman kayo kanina pa, na pinakita hindi doon sa 250, di ba? We're just going back and forth, so I just wanted to escape that. And then I don't know what their lawyers are saying na hindi pinakita. Okay, so, but thank you for that, SLG. So, yung last point ko nga kay Attorney Alexis, in the form of a few questions. Sir, does the quality of your petition to the court matter? In terms of due process and satisfying reasonable manner that the accused was given the opportunity to seek legal remedies.
You mean to say, Your Honor, you think of due process, the petitioner should have enough time to come up with a quality petition?
Well, quality lawyers, because if I'm consulting an immigration lawyer for a criminal, I don't know the practice of ES Miguel Dia. Well, at the last 6 years, I do know that he was ES. In his younger years, he was my dad's partner before nag-iba-ibang law office. Parang hindi ko alam kung litigation or labor eh. So ang point ko lang, di ba, the quality of the petition you file is also part of due process, meaning having enough time with your lawyer, being able to choose kung sinong lawyer, the combination of your lawyers, whether saying, sir, pang RTC to, sir, pang Supreme Court. I read marami sa internet na bakit hindi ununa yung writ of habeas corpus, application for the writ of habeas corpus versus the TRO. The explanation, sorry guys, talagang sa Facebook at sa news, but sa news, doon ko rin nabasa, so I'm not saying it's true. Maraming fake news in all sides, but I'm just telling you honestly where I got my news. At sinasabi nga na si attorney, how do you pronounce it? Torion? No, the one who filed sa TRO, yung Torion, di ba? Sinasabi kasi nga, si Attorney Torion somehow worked on it na nung may balita pa lang sa Hong Kong. Kaya yun yung final. I don't know if it's true or not, but my point is, I see from the enforcement side, binigyan nyo ng 10 hours, 12 hours, but from the accused side, enough time to pick my lawyers, to give the facts, to look at the warrant, to look, kasi ako lang, 2 days na ako nag-aaral sa hearing na to, hirap pa eh. So if I'm not a practicing lawyer in the sense na nag-litigate, di ba? But I don't think I'll be able to put a really good petition to the Supreme Court or to the RTC in 2 days, di ba? So to say, my 12 hours na. So my question was really, hindi ba part ng due process din yung reasonable opportunity to the best defense available to you?
If I may, Senator, there are actually no clear constitutional or jurisprudential
Walang kwenta to, guys.
standards on the quality of legal
Punta
service
tayo
as
kay
an
Vice
aspect
President
of due
Inday Sara.
process. But it's arguable that the quality, the opportunity to get quality legal service.
Guys, ito, press con tayo. Walang kwentang hearing. Ito kay Inday Sara.
Ang lawyer niya ay si Nicholas Kaufman. At everyday, meron din akong oras sa pagbisita sa kanya. Ang pinag-uusapan naman namin ay una yung bayan, pangalawa yung pamilya, and pangatlo yung mga mensahe niya para sa ating mga kababayan. Ang
Utal-utal lang.
sunod naman ay ang estado ni Attorney Bingbong Medialdea.
Utal-utal si Inday Sara.
Di ko lang kasi alam kung hanggang saan ang gusto niya sabihin sa publiko sa kanyang health concerns ngayon.
Walang kwentang hearing.
Pero siya ay nasa hospital hanggang ngayon. Nakita naman natin yung kanyang pag-collapse doon sa ICC detention.
Utal-utal.
Kahapon. So hanggang ngayon ay nasa hospital siya. At meron atang mga procedure na gagawin sa kanya. Hindi ko lang masabi kung ano yung mga procedure na yon. Siguro bagay na tanungin natin ang kanyang next of kin o kanyang asawa sa kung ano yung mga health concerns ngayon ni Attorney Medialdea. Pagdating naman kay Attorney Harry Roque, wala siya ngayon dito sa The Hague. Nandito siya sa Netherlands. Pero nandoon siya sa isang lugar sa labas ng
tayo ng
siguro bagay na tanungin natin.
Ganun din. Walang guys hanapin lang natin yung yung walang utal. Sana tayo copyright. Walang kwentang hearing, guys.
Multitasking ako. Nandito ako as Vice President, ginagawa ng paraan paano maibalik ang ating dating Pangulo sa ating bayan. Nagtatrabaho ako through our satellite offices, through our central office of the Office of the Vice President. Tuloy-tuloy ang serbisyo namin para sa bayan. At yes, wala po akong balak na tumira dito sa Netherlands. Hindi ko po gusto tumagal dito. Marami akong kailangan na sikasuhin. Trabaho dito, trabaho dyan sa Pilipinas. At alam ko kung paano magbalanse ng trabaho dahil mas mahirap pa ang trabaho ng isang mayor. Sa sobrang dami ng issues and concerns ng isang lugar. So, marunong na ako bumalanse.
Alright, maraming salamat po, VP.
Okay, next question, Prrd Mendoza, Manila Times.
Good afternoon po, ma'am. Do you hear me po, ma'am?
Yes, I can hear you,
Yes,
Red.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. 3 questions. Sabay-sabay ko na ito po, ma'am. Ma'am, may estimated date po ba kayo na uuwi kayo sa Pilipinas? Number 2, how much po gagastusin ng pamilya ninyo sa legal defense ni former President Duterte? Number 3, are you going to join na po ba the rallies of the PDP laban coming forward pag bumalik po kayo sa Pilipinas? Yun lang po, ma'am.
Unang-una, hindi ko pa, meron akong return ticket dahil sa April yon. dahil kailangan kasi required siya bago ka makaalis ay meron kang return ticket. So meron akong return ticket sa April. Hindi ko alam kung hanggang kailan ako dito, sa totoo lang, dahil hindi pa nabuo yung legal team ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. As Vice President, may obligasyon ako na buuin yung kanyang support group
alis tayo dito, baka makapiright ako.
para merong tumutulong sa kanya na makalabas dyan sa IC.
Tayo.
Alright. Ma'am, pasensya na ha. I hate to ask this pero may panawagan po ang palat.
Bakit ganito ang kuha ng insemination?
Na as Vice President, yet though they understand you as a daughter, a lawyer, pero bilang Vice President daw po,
sorry makapiright ako ng UNTV.
kayo rin po ay meron din daw tungkulin sa mamamayang Pilipino. Kaya ang panawagan nila, Miss, umuwi.
Yan lang guys baka makapiright ako ng UNTV. Wala sa seminay, di magandang kuha. Lang.
Noong isang araw ay sinabihan ko na siya na malaki ang posibilidad na mag-apply kami ng legal aid at hindi ito privately funded case. Ang pangatlo is kung sasali ba ako sa kampanya ng PDP, senator candidates at sa mga guest candidates nila, palagay ko naman hindi na kailangan ako sumama sa kampanya nila dahil alam na ng taong bayan at alam na ng buong bansa na kailangan nila baguhin ang muka ng ating gobyerno at alam nila na kailangan nilang iboto 10 doon sa mga kandidato na yun. Unang-una, yung mga kandidato ng PDP, Senator Bongo, Senator Bato de la Rosa, Attorney Hinlo, Attorney Bondok, Philip Salvador, and meron pa isa.
Vic Rodriguez, ma'am.
Vic Rodriguez is a guest candidate of PDP. So meron pa tayong isang PDP senator. And meron tayong 4 na guest candidate. Si Attorney Vic Rodriguez, si Congressman Rodante Marcoleta, si Pastor Apollo Kibuloy, and si Dr. Richard Mata. So, ito yun nga, siguro ang dahilan kung bakit inalis or ginawa ng extraordinary rendition ang dating Pangulo. Dahil mukhang magba-block voting ang buong Pilipinas sa 10 senador.
Okay po ma'am. Thank you po ma'am.
Okay. Next question, Jason Rubrigo, SMNI. Jason?
Hey ma'am, good afternoon po. Ma'am, dito po sa legal team po ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte, kamusta po yung pakikipag-usap natin doon sa listahan po ng mga abogado at kailan po natin inaasahan na mabubuo po ang legal team ni dating Pangulong Duterte?
Kailan guys, baka makapiright ako guys.
Mamayang gabi may darating na isang abogado, no? So kailangan ko siya kausapin, kailangan ko siya i-interview para ay dagdag siya.
Baka masira channel ko. Dito lang ako sa Seminay. Diyan na guys baka masira channel ko. Doon na lang tayo sa Seminay.
Multitasking ako.
Audio na lang,
As
audio.
Vice President, ginagawa.
Ay, tagis.
Paraan, paano maibalik ang ating dating Pangulo sa ating bayan.
Audio na lang
Nagtatrabaho ko.
Audio na lang.
Through our satellite offices, through our central office of the Office of the Vice President. Ituloy ang serbisyo namin para sa bayan. At yes, wala po akong balak na tumira.
Grabe
dito sa Netherlands. Hindi ko po gusto
Bakit gano'n?
magal
Siya
dito.
na, iniiwasan
Madami
ko lang
akong
yung
kailangan-
copyright. Delikado tayo sa UNTV, nagka-copyright. Nagka-copyright, delikado tayo. Kaya lang. Hanap tayo ng ano. Ano guys Bakit yung NTV walang utal? Lahat utal. Wala nang live dito. Lang guys
Okay, next question, Red Mendoza, Manila Times.
Audio na lang tayo guys, audio.
Good afternoon po, ma'am. Do you hear me po, ma'am?
Yes, I can hear you,
Yes,
Red.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. 3 questions. Sabay-sabay ko na yun po, ma'am. Ma'am, may estimated date po ba kayo na uuwi kayo sa Pilipinas? Number 2,
Buti pati dito pala.
how much po magagastusin ng pamilya ninyo sa legal defense ni
Delikado kasi yung NTV, baka makapiright tayo, mahirap na.
former President Duterte? Number 3, are you going to join
Guru-guru.
na po ba the rallies of the PDP laban coming forward pag bumalik po kayo sa Pilipinas? Yun lang po, ma'am.
Gagi yung lahat loading.
Una-una,
Ganyan ba lahat? Hindi mal talaga.
hindi ko pa, meron akong return ticket.
Bakit ganyan lahat?
Dahil, sa April yon. Dahil, kailangan kasi, required siya.
Wala na.
Bago ka makaalis ay meron kang return ticket. So, meron akong return ticket sa April.
Tayo na, ganun lahat. Ayaw ko kumuha sa UNTV guys kasi
Hindi ko alam kung hanggang kailan ako dito.
Lahat utal-utal.
Sa totoo lang, dahil hindi pa nabuo yung legal team ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte.
May gulay. Wala, utal-utal.
As Vice President, may obligasyon ako na buuin yung kanyang support group dito.
Wala. Lahat ganyan.
Para merong tumutulong sa
Munting ina na yan, walang kwenta. My God!
na makalabas dyan sa ICC.
Lahat ganyan, utal. Yung NTV ang maayos, kaso ayaw ko po guys.
Detention. Pangalawa, magkano ang gastos ng pamilya?
Kumintuhan ko na lang to mamayang gabi mga Bisdak. Kaya natin bumalik sa hearing ng Senado.
pakulong. Again, I am not defending President Duterte. I'm just explaining the rights of an accused. Because naging akusado rin ako. I don't want that to happen to anybody else. Dapat naman nagbigay kayo ng konting kortesiya o respeto man lang sa mga dating presidente dahil naranasan namin yan. Kung kinulong po yung tatay ko, ganun din. Kung walang respeto ang mga pulis namin. Bakit nawala ba kami sa kapangyarihan? Ganun na lang? Patanong ko naman siya, General, wag naman po sana mangyari, God forbid. Pag sinapit ng ni President, pag sumapit ng ganitong sitwasyon si Presidente Marcos, gagawin mo rin ba yun sa kanya? I hope not.
Ang liwanag po ng batas, kung ma-follow up ko lang si Senator Jinggoy, tama po siya. Hindi lang yung immediate family, medical doctor, pare or religious minister, any national non-government organization ng CHR, international non-government accredited by the Office of the President. Lahat yan may access, pero pinagbawalan ninyo. On 2 counts, immediate family na, abogado pa niya. Bakit ganun?
Ma'am, I think that's sub judice. I think we should be wary of many of the things we were mentioning.
Bakit po naging sub judice yun?
Ito kasi, habeas corpus po ang petition. So everything about the arrest will be asked by the Supreme Court.
Kanina pa natin pag-uusapan yung aresto.
Pero I think that we're just passing, parang lumalapas na po tayo sa boundary.
Senator Jinggoy po?
Ang sinasabi ko lang, the manner on how the former president was arrested, because ayoko naman mangyari sa darating na panahon na magkakaroon naman tayo ng ganyan. Sana makapagbigay lang ng korting kortesiya man lang, nakausapin yung mga abogado, pero nakausapin yung mga members ng immediate family niya, sana naman binigyan niya ng pagkakataon. Kaso mo, nung nakiusap si dating Pangulong Duterte, napapasukin yung kanyang anak na abogada. Tanggalin mo na hindi siya, na vice-presidente siya. Abogada at anak niya, member na immediate family, sana man lang binigyan niya ng pagkakataon. Makita niya yung tatay niya bago niyo siya isinakay sa plano. Yun lang naman yung sa akin. Masakit. Ako, isang anak na meron din akong tatay na ginanon ninyo. Sakit para sa akin.
Pakipaliwanag din. Maraming salamat, Senator Jinggoy. Marami tayong pinagdaanan, kapatid. Kaya't eto nga, talagang dinudibdib natin ito. Yes, Secretary John Vic lang po.
Kay Vicky, kay VP, kay Senator at sa iyo, hugot ng mga anak ng presidente yan.
Sumpa. Secretary John Vic, itatanong ko lang, why was there obstruction of justice? Pakipaliwanag lang. Anong ginawa nila na obstruction of justice?
I think General Torre would be the best one to explain that, ma'am.
General?
Sir.
Sabi niyo nag-obstruction of justice, kaya aarestuhin na rin ninyo si Attorney Medialdea. Ano po yung ginawa ni Attorney Medialdea na obstruction of justice?
We're about to load an arrested person into a plane to transport him to the tribunal who issued the warrant. And Attorney Medialdea is preventing us from doing that. He shouted at us and intimidated us, including the president intimidating me.
Alam ko malaking tao si Attorney Medialdea, pero hinarang ba kayo, tinulak ba kayo? Wala namang ginawa eh. Hindi naman nadadaan sa salita yung obstruction eh.
He did, ma'am. So I do believe that under that circumstances, I have to arrest him and I do believe that I used the reasonable force to ensure compliance, for him to step aside, for us to load the former president to the plane.
So yun lang yung obstruction dahil nagsisigawan yung mag-asawa?
He is preventing us from doing our job of loading the former president to the plane.
Hinarang ba kayo?
Yes, ma'am.
Anong ginawa?
Nakikita naman sa video eh.
Ang nakita ko lang, pinipilit niyo iposas, hindi magkasya yung posas.
Yes, that's one thing, ma'am. He's blocking the way. He's preventing us. He actually placed another chair at the side of the president for the former president to sit, which is already very much delaying everything because the plane is already ready to fly.
Ba't kayo masyadong nagmamadali?
We are going... Una-una ma'am, ang reglementary period, mamalasin naman kami pag hindi namin ginawa ang trabaho
Bakit?
namin.
Anong reglementary period? Anong period yun?
The Article
Dahil
125
sinabi na nga ni Executive Director sa ating PCTC na diffusion lang naman yun eh. Wala nga commitment pinag-uusapan dun eh. Wala nga red notice, pambira eh.
There is a warrant.
Tagal na ni Arnie Tevez eh. Wala pa rin, di ba?
is
Ba't kayo nagmamadali? Ano yung reglementary period mo?
May I refer it to the SOJ, ma'am? If the SOJ wants to answer that.
Hindi ba pwede kayo na muna? Mauna lang kayo, tapos sa si SOJ. Pwede?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
My main processes during the time is that I have implemented a warrant, and it is therefore the person is already arrested by virtue of a legal warrant, and Article 125 comes into play of the revised penal code, which is entitled Delivery of Persons Legally Arrested to the Proper Judicial Authority, and I do believe at this point the judicial authority will be the ICC. Therefore, I have to abide with that Article 125 of the
So
revised penal
inaamin
code.
mo warrantless aresto? Kasi yung Article 125 ng RPC does not apply kung may warrant. So inaamin mo walang warrant?
At the many stages, ma'am, all the many other, among other
Make up your
laws.
mind, General Torre. Warrantless arrest ba to o may warrant? Kasi ang liwanag naman ng Article 125 eh, ng revised penal.
I do believe that I have a warrant at this time. I just don't want to be...
Hindi walang reglementary period. Mamili ka. Kapag warrantless arrest, edi may period. Kapag may warrant, walang period.
Just the same, ma'am, I have to deliver him to
Hindi
the
pareho
judicial
yun,
proper
kapatid.
authority.
Hindi magkapareho yun. The reglementary period only comes into play when there's a warrantless arrest in accordance with Article 125 of the Revised Penal Code. Di po ba? At saka may kinalaman yun sa delivery of the accused and arrested. Di po ba?
And I'm being cautioned by the DOJ, ma'am, that it may be sub judice already to discuss that because of the habeas corpus pending in the Supreme Court, ma'am.
Pati ba naman ang Revised Penal Code? Naging executive session. Pambihirang buhay ito. Okay. Senator Cayetano?
Ma'am, can I have a few questions, baka 10 to 15 minutes and a short introduction lang. Okay. So, good afternoon ulit, gentlemen, ladies. Pasensya niyo yung aking introduction. I'm not imposing this on you. This is my personal code, di ba? So, more than being Alang Cayetano or a senator, a former Secretary of Foreign Affairs or former Speaker or Congressman, I believe I'm an ambassador of the Lord Jesus Christ, di ba? So, I'm not imposing that on anyone, but our USEC here will tell you, ambassadors don't have opinions. Kung ano ang sinabi ng principal nila, yun ang iyong opinion. Hindi ka pwede magsariling opinion. So, when we pray, yung Lord's Prayer na, your kingdom come here on earth as it is on heaven, you're actually aligning your government and your culture with God's culture, di ba? And God's purpose. Yung pinakasimple is do good or promote good, prevent evil. Parang sa police din, Sir Marbil, di ba, na prevent evil, do good. Saan nagkakatalo? Nagkakatalo dun sa mga pro-Duterte na the drug war was a war for peace and order. It was a war because many pushers and to certain effect addicts who committed crimes were making people unsafe. So to those who are supportive of that, they're doing God's will of promoting good. Doon naman sa human rights activists, ang ano nila, accountability. So kahit yan ay pusher or addict, hindi dapat patayin na lang or EJK. Wala tayong complication if Duterte was more like FDR or more like Pinoy because his language was more diplomatic. So you wouldn't hear FDR, despite being a distinguished soldier, one of the founders ng special forces, di ba, even sa police, di ba? So, pero kasi si President Duterte may lengguwahe, pag lumaban, patayin nyo yan, his explanation is that yun kasi naiintindihan ng kriminal. Pero ang pulis, aral yan, so alam nila tama't mali. So if you looked at the videos when I was foreign minister, I had nothing to do with operations, but part to nung explaining to the world what was happening, and part to nung communications. It was both based on the foreign policy, and the President allowed me to put a little bit of my opinion. So ang stand namin doon, during that time, and this is where I'll start my questions, SOJ, is that lahat ng mali iimbestigahan. So the only way that President Duterte will have a chance to show na walang systematic culling of addicts, extrajudicial killing, walang crime against is individual one-on-one investigations. What confused everything during that time? First, meron po kasing issuance ang sila Secretary de Lima noon, ni-redefine nila yung extrajudicial killing. AO 35. Kaya yung 13,000 to 18,000 na patay every year during the Aquino administration, suddenly nung Duterte administration, so nung time nila, sinabi nila hindi extrajudicial yon. So nandun sa AO, tinanggal nila yung mga activist na hindi daw extrajudicial killing yon. So pagdating ng Duterte time, basta patay at hindi natural causes, extrajudicial. Okay? Pero klaro din naman na dumabi din because nga, once you started the campaign, meron talagang away among the syndicates, meron, from the start, Duterte said, meron politiko, meron police, may businessman, lahat yan may involved sa drugs. And no one of us naman doubted that. Ang question lang, yung due process sa mga police at politiko dun sa drug war. So, klaro tayo dun. So, eto lang yung question ko. SOJ, feel free kung tingin mo, subjudice or issue na to, but factual lang, no? I think this is of public record. Former Senator De Lima was CHR, was a Commission on Human Rights Chairperson 2008 to 2010. Tama, no? Yeah. So, no one disputes that. Sa pagkaalam ko, wala siyang final na case during that time na siya'y CHR. So, I'll just check that, Madam Chair, and then submit it to the committee. But ang pagkaalam ko, walang case. Okay. But eto siguro masasagot ng DOJ kung hindi ngayon, just forward the answer. From 2010 to 2015, despite the investigation of former Senator De Lima noong 2008 to 2010, ang sabi niya, mahirap kumuha ng witness kasi nga mayor pa siya noon, tapos malakas daw sa presidente noon. I think he was peace and order head nung region eh. But 2010 to 2015, siya ang DOJ secretary. Sa pagkaalam ko, wala rin siyang final na case. To your knowledge, may final ba ang DOJ noon or special prosecutor against Duterte ng 2010?
I have no idea,
Yeah.
sir.
Can we double check?
I will double check.
Yeah, okay. Sa pagkaalam ko po, sir, wala. Okay? Ang point ko is that either wala siyang kaso, meaning wala siyang ebidensya, because if she had, why didn't she file it? During the time na siya nakaupo, na walang poder si Mayor Duterte. Okay. Fast forward, 2016, September pa lang, so June 30 kami naging senador, siya, I was an incumbent noon. July, last week of July, ang third week ang SONA, so July, August, September. No? Wala pang 2 buwan as senator, nakakuha daw siya ng 2 importanteng witness, si Edgar Motobato and former PNP officer ba siya or Arturo Las Cañas. Again, I won't make a judgment here as far as the 2 witness. But dito niya ginawa, okay? Again, no cases filed. And yung pagkagawa ng hearing was very political. I was just testing the credibility of Edgar Motobato and Arturo Las Cañas. For all I know, they were very credible. Pinatayan ako ng mic dito sa session. Inagawan ako ng mic, ini-intimidate ako. And although namagitan si Senator De Lima, hindi niya sinensure, hindi niya pinagalitan yung umalis ng mic. And anyway, history is the record. Ang point ko, still they did not file cases dito sa Pilipinas. Pero hawak nila yung 2. Sabihin mo nang walang mangyayari, I don't agree, but sabihin mo walang mangyayari kasi panahon ni President Duterte yon. So again, fast forward, no? From 2022, June 30, when President Marcos took over in Marcos administration to present, do you know of cases filed against President Duterte, whether it's murder or crimes against in the Philippines?
I think Senator Sonny Trillanes filed cases.
Okay. So
but this went to the office of the Prosecutor General, who immediately forwarded the said cases without going to my office to the Ombudsman. And there, it's already just locked in there already. It never went back to us.
So as we're discussing naman SOJ, this is factual lang naman, di ba? May case ba, wala? We're not making judgments dun sa cases. Because, but ang point ko kasi, kung walang case, bakit? Kasi kung walang ebidensya, no point for ICC to take it up. Kasi wala ngang ebidensya. If it's because hindi matry dito, for whatever reason, di ba, pinoprotektahan natin, our justice system doesn't work, then dapat mapunta sa ICC. So I don't know the amount of evidence attached to the complaint of Senator Trillanes. Again, I won't comment. Factual lang yon. I have my opinions, but I'll keep my opinion to myself, no? But in June 24, 2022, so ano pa to? Duterte pa to, no? Kasi June 30 pa ang Marcos, di ba? Nag-file ang Solgen sa ICC ng deferral request. So, you're aware of this. Okay. So, tignan na lang, nasa page 315, no? Kasi, can I have the, ayan, sa ICC. I think you talked about jurisdiction, but hindi nagsentro sa Article 17 din, pero sa ICC, hindi dun sa batas natin. Okay. So, I think the deferral was based on 18-2. So, just for the record ng mabilis lang, I haven't even read that yet, but just for us understanding, and then baka makatulong, not necessarily on what side, but makatulong sa Supreme Court, no? Okay, Article 17, issues of admissibility. Having regard to paragraph 10 of the preamble of Article 1, the court shall determine that a case is inadmissible where, okay, ICC to, Rome Statute, which we ratified and then we withdrew, no? Sabi A, the case is being investigated or prosecuted by a state which has jurisdiction over it, unless the state is unwilling or unable genuinely to carry out the investigation of prosecution. So again, SOJ, I won't put you on the spot, but for me, 2008 to 2010, hindi naman unwilling at hindi naman unable to carry out yung state. This was the time of President Arroyo. 2010 to 2016, to be fair, niratify yung ICC 2011 pa. So, naging effective 2011. So, wala na yung 2010. But, for me, 2010, 2011, ganyan, hindi unwilling ang state. In fact, pumirma nga sa ICC, hindi rin unable yung state. Wala lang talagang final. Letter B, the case has been investigated by the state which has jurisdiction over it, and the state has decided not to prosecute the person concerned unless the decision resulted from unwillingness or inability of the state genuinely to prosecute. In general, SOJ, SILG, no? In general, Sir Marbil, Chief PNP, in general, I don't remember that the Philippine government decided not to prosecute, diba? Kasi under our present laws, if you find probable cause, even the president cannot stop it. Even ang pardon natin, iba sa US Constitution. Sa pardon, you can pardon right away sa US. Sa atin, kailangan, ano na, di ba, final, di ba, kailangan final and executory.
Final judgment.
Final judgment, di ba? Final judgment. So, kung nag-a-appeal ka pa, hindi ka pwedeng humingi ng pardon. So, I don't think we stopped any case or refused to, The third one is the person has already been tried for the conduct in which the subject complaint and trial is not permitted. So I think this is their version of double jeopardy, no? So wala din yan kasi wala pa namang kaso si former President, former Mayor Duterte. letter D, the case is not sufficient gravity to justify further court order. I won't comment dyan kasi nasa ICC yan. Except that, ang nilagay nila, at least 19, and then at least din ba yung 23 or 23. So, I have a little bit of a problem that kasi pag sinabing crimes against humanity, naaalala mo na yung mga dictators of the old sa Africa or some in the troubled areas of not the untroubled areas of the Middle East na grabe ang patayan and everything, di ba? So to put the Philippines there with President Duterte, I think it's a little bit unfair na gamitin mo at least, di ba? Kasi kung sinabi mong from 17 to 1,000, at least may idea tayo. Pero at least 17, ano yon? Baka 18, baka 19. And don't get me wrong, every life matters. Pero iba kasi yung crime against humanity, iba yung murder lang, no? Again, hindi ko nilalang ang murder in the sense na one life yon, you should still be tried, di ba? So for the record, if we have evidence, we should file the cases here against President. He should face here, okay? So, mahaba pa to, so hindi ko babasahin lahat, pero just to go to 18, challenges to the jurisdiction of the court or the admissibility of a case. So, pwede kasing mag-file yung Solgen. And then, nandito, if a challenge is made by the state, the prosecutor shall suspend the investigation until such time as the court in accordance. So, ang point lang dito, and correct me now or later on kung mali, is that at any time, kung alam natin may investigation, pwedeng sabihin nung state tayo na sandali, we're hearing it here, or may ongoing dito, or mali kayo. Of course, they can overrule us. They can say, no, we don't believe justice will be there. So, to my knowledge, during the Duterte time, never tayong nag-intervene na except etong kay Solgen ng June 24. I mean, I may be wrong ha, kasi knowledge ko lang to, but June 24, nag-intervene siya. Sinabi niya, sandali lang, please postpone, di ba? Hindi ko pa nababasa anong dahilan na postpone. During the Marcos administration, we did not, no? We had no filing sa ICC whether na ituloy nyo yan o wag nyong ituloy yan.
It was Secretary Guevara who filed the Philippine position with the ICC.
But that was still Duterte time kasi September.
No, it was already our time.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'll refer to that. But did we ask them to stop or to proceed or?
Yes, we were asking them to stop, but we
asked them to stop.
But we failed the test. We didn't win the case.
Okay. Did they tell you why? Was it our justice system or they said na pwede pa rin? Or just submit?
It's actually the ruling also that what is being tried here is not a country but individuals who may have violated international humanitarian law.
Sige po. But clear naman dun sa Article 17 and 18, the state intervenes, but it's individuals naman eh. Diba? So I won't go into that na. So I'll move on to, sinabi ni SOJ kanina na investigations are ongoing. Diba? Whether this is individual or groups, whether police or nothing to police, diba? Na sa lahat ng extrajudicial killing.
But it has not been easy, Mr. Senator.
It has
not been easy.
To your point, I don't have it right now, ha? But when Senator De Lima said hindi inimbestigahan, I looked at the investigative capacity of the PNP during the Aquino administration. Parang 1/3 din lang ang naimbestigahan. And of the total na naimbestiga, it was, I will correct my numbers, ha? But it was like only 20% of those investigating were trained for investigation. That was a long time ago at minana din lang ni President Aquino yon. But ang point ko, there was no substantial difference between the investigations in the Aquino and Duterte.
The difficulty that we had from 2022 is that in wrongful death situations throughout the country, where something foul was suspected, there were no police reports.
Okay.
As a matter of practice, there were no police reports on wrongful death situations. And when we tried to dig further and we spoke to the medical legal, the most known medical legal person in the country, Dr. Fortune, when she investigated a wrongful death situation, the death certificate indicated cardiac arrest as the cause of death. but in the autopsy, there were bullet holes in the head. of the
Well,
person.
that is in itself is evidence, di ba?
Yes,
If there
it's
was
evidence.
if there was widespread na walang police report, and that's the first time I heard that, because when I was SFA, Foreign Affairs, and I was asking, sinasabi nila, sir, lahat yan at dapat pagka-suspicious ganito yung sistema, no? And kung meron forensic na cardiac arrest ganyan, so at the very least may falsification yan, di ba?
Yeah, when we looked at the records of the wrongful death situations, there were really no police reports. Maybe 95% had no police reports.
So anyway, that's for another hearing, etc. Ang point ko lang, our justice system is working.
It is working.
It is working. And
Yes.
it has its ups and downs, and may common belief na pag administrasyon ng presidente, may konting protection for that. May ganun belief, whether it's true or not. But this isn't anymore so 2008 to 2010, 2010 to 2016, kung kailan man nagkaroon ng break-up yung unit team, hindi na panahon ni President Duterte ngayon to. So
actually, what the cases that we are speaking about were filed by their families in the ICC because they could not get justice in the country. I think that's one thing that nobody wants to acknowledge, is that there was a failure of our justice system for a long time. And they had to file their cases in the ICC to get any attention at all from anybody who cared. Because for the longest time, ito mga biktima po, yung mga namatayan, yung mga pamilya nilang namatay o kaya na napaslang sa drug war, ay wala ko nang mapuntahan. Kaya doon ho sila nagpunta sa ICC.
That's why I said, SOJ, na may belief na pag panahon ni Arroyo, it's very hard to go after Arroyo. May truth o hindi, in the sense that meron na presidential immunity while you're president. Pero pagkatapos hindi, di ba? That's why after President Erap's time, nakulong siya. After President Arroyo's time, nakulong siya, di ba? After President Aquino's time, wala naman nag-file ng kaso kay President Aquino, okay? So kung ang belief, wala kang justice kay Duterte during his time, I won't comment, but that's a belief. But 2008 to 2010, hindi sila nag-file. 2010 to 2016, hindi sila nag-file. And then ngayon, pwede sila mag-file. Diba? So, and walang so I mean, the ICC should also look at our patterns and system. It's not only the period So, the second point I want to make is that, for example, no, si Mr. Las Cañas as Mr. si Motabato, one, hindi naman dinala and she's free to manifest here kung mali ako, di naman niya dinala sa DOJ or sa Ombudsman yung dalawa After dalhin sa Senate, hindi ko na alam kung anong ginawa nila. Okay, two, assuming it was because they think walang mangyayari during Duterte's time, did anyone bring Edgar Matubato and Las Cañas either to the DOJ, NBI, or to the... Pwede bang dumiretso sa witness protection or that?
Marami ho kami nakakausap na possible witnesses.
Yes.
But not them.
Yeah.
But not Matubato.
But example lang, yung dalawa lang, no? So ang point ko lang, di ba, if the rest of the world, the European human rights activists, etc., for the record, SOJ, if these gentlemen are brought to you, and I'm not talking about the prosecutorial lang or DOJ, I'm talking about the whole machinery, the witness protection, the NBI, the PNP, the CIDG, will we investigate?
Yes, we will.
Yes.
We would have. We would have.
Diba? So, in the same manner that Gerald Torre is complaining about vloggers who have fake news about him, if there are complaints about Marcos vloggers na fake news, you will also investigate CIDG, diba? I mean, people might believe or not, but you are duty bound to investigate whatever side, di ba?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. But of course, during Duterte's time, they did not believe. If kasuhan mo Duterte vloggers, they don't believe may mangyayari, di ba? But I think there were some na cyber libel even during Duterte's time, no? So the point lang I'm making, and it's not addressed to you but to the international community, is that the Philippines is a vibrant democracy, di ba? Our economy is good. The peaceful transition from Arroyo to Aquino, from Aquino to Duterte, from Duterte to Marcos has done as well. So yes, we have problems with politics now, but which country doesn't? The US, Europe and the US, di ba? May mga significant difference sila. I mean, Many countries are at war. We're not at war. Diba? We have problems with China, but we're working it out. Diba? We have problems with other countries. We're working it out. We have problems with Pogo. We're working it out. Diba? So my point is, diba, na in my view, dito dapat, yes, accountability, pero dito dapat trinay ang ating dating Pangulo. The last point I wanna make is that iba pa rin pag former president. I mean, sa US, na US Constitution nila that the Americans can't be tried elsewhere. But lalo kung US president. So sa akin kasi, kahit former siya, hindi na siya presidente, he's still a symbol eh. Diba? So like me, diba? You know how hard I went against President Arroyo when she was president. But when I was speaker, may pinagawa siya sa House, winelcome ko siya, etc. Kasi yung office, even if hindi ka na doon, nire-respeto mo pa rin iyon eh, di ba? So,
maybe I can, I have to tell the Senate that nobody's happy with what happened.
Okay.
Wala akong maligaya sa nangyaring ito. Ngunit, kailangan lang gawin namin yung aming katungkulan. Sa tingin namin yun ang aming katungkulan, ginawa namin. Ang aming tungkulin.
And sir, that's where we disagree kasi tingin namin there was another avenue to go to court. But as you said, that we probably part of the litigation. So let's see the, not opinion, last few. So who received the March, so kailan po na-issue yung warrant? March 10? Or March 11?
I know,
March 11, sir.
March 11.
March 7, it was under seal.
Okay, under seal.
Yun. Tapos, March 11.
Who or what office received it?
The
PCTC.
They received it. Then from them, Santrin and Smith.
To all the relevant law enforcement agencies.
Law enforcement.
Yes, there are 3 Interpol connections in the country. NBI, Immigration, and of course, the PNP.
Okay. Then when it was unsealed, was it immediately executed or did any relevant government lawyers review it muna to see whether a Filipino citizen, whether the rights of a Filipino citizen was being...
Sir, just to be clear,
yeah.
After the warrant was served on March 11, 3 a.m., it was only in the post-mortem that we learned about the unsealing on March 7. So there was no information to us in the effect that it was unsealed on March 7 until after the service of the warrant.
Can you enlighten me on that, sec? So the unsealing was...
Yes, we learned about the unsealing of the warrant post-arrest, sir.
Okay.
When he was there already, it was revealed to us that it was opened on March 7, although not transmitted to any members of the government.
Okay.
We only received notice, formal notice. I think when the unsealing happened, that's when all the rumors started.
Okay.
I think
so,
that was the basis of President.
I thank you for that, SILG, because that factual na meron na nung March 7 na unseal, etc. So
again, sir, I have to clarify that.
Yes.
There was no one in complete knowledge of the unsealing until after the arrest.
Who unsealed it back theoretically, or what office?
Secretary Boying, it was unsealed by the ICC.
By the ICC.
By the court, yes.
By the court. Okay. Let's fill in the blanks na lang factually as you know the circumstance. What do you call this? Permits. But ang point ko, from the time it was unsealed, served to the president, did any government lawyers look at it muna and make a determination, or we took it at face value, i-serve na yan?
Yes, sir. Again,
you can change my words if you think prejudicial.
Again, sir, just to be clear, there was no contact between the government and the ICC in whatever way or form. We only received the warrant of arrest, the PCTC, on March 11, 3 a.m.
So when the PCTC, sir. Yeah, okay. When that office received it, ang marching orders or ang SOP or protocol, again if my words are prejudicial, correct me, please. I don't mind. I'm not putting any bias or prejudice. I'm just speaking the way I understand it. Did anyone in the Philippine government or look at it and check it out muna? Or iserve na natin to?
Sir, upon receipt of the copy, I talked to the Secretary of Justice. He reviewed it. He assumed that it had a presumption of regularity as informed. And we subsequently informed the President of the existence of the warrant.
Okay. You concur with that,
Yes,
SOJ.
yes. I reviewed. It was without to me.
This was
I was in Vienna at that time.
This wasn't. This isn't a trick question. So meaning, if you said no one reviewed, I would have asked, wouldn't it be a better protocol that someone reviewed, para even before the accused goes to court? But saying that you reviewed it, I assume that you found it regular, and I won't argue with you there. I mean, I disagree that the warrant rise to the level that ipadala mo lang siya doon, dapat sa court muna. But you are satisfied, at least in form. Again, I don't want to put words, form, and substance, but you know what I mean. Tinignan mo, and then okay na ano to.
Yes, I gave the clearance. I gave the clearance to serve the warrant.
Okay. So, again, I just want to make a point at that point in time that for me, kung tinanggap nung accused, nung arestuhin, okay lang. Pero kung hindi, sana may judicial review available. No, I already made the point of.
Sir, it was received at the first available instance that the accused allowed himself to read it.
Yes, that's where I disagree nga kasi something this complex, di ba? I would have rather, I don't know if it's 15 days, 30 days, give the lawyer enough time, etc. to go there. Tapos, lastly na lang siguro po kasi may mata sa gilid si Senator Amy, I think natatagalan na rin dun sa 10 minutes ko. Okay. So, si SOJ naman explained the thin line between cooperation, jurisdiction, and everything. Okay? But, meron representative ang government, di ba? Kasi, so, we turned over the arrested former President Duterte, not to the Interpol, no? We turned them over to ICC.
Our Interpol representative turned him over to the ICC.
So if we were cooperating with Interpol, why didn't we turn them over to Interpol? And then sila na.
We did, sir. Mr. Lacanilao was the representative of the Interpol. He accompanied the former president to The Hague.
But hindi ba dual? Kasi di ba Mr. Lacanilao is Ambassador Marcus Lacanilao?
Yes, sir. And he's also part of the PCTC.
Yeah, but he's the special envoy for transnational crime.
Yes, sir. And
so he's representing the Philippine government, not Interpol.
Center for Transnational Crime is Interpol, sir.
Yeah, but what I meant is that he's representing the Philippine participation in Interpol.
He was given an appointment by the President to represent the Philippines in this matter.
Yes. Ang understanding ko lang SILG, di ba? So yung ICC, sinabi, kasi nga, wala naman sa Netherlands. Kung nasa Netherlands, then they would have asked the Dutch police, di ba? But since nga, or the state police, di ba? But since wala nga, they asked, and since the state withdrew, they asked the Interpol, and Interpol asked us. Tama po ba?
Yes, sir.
So, if we were cooperating only with Interpol, dapat sinurrender natin sa Interpol.
Yes, sir. That's what we did, sir.
No, Mr. Lacanilao, he was appointed, turned him over directly to the ICC, not to the Interpol.
Yes, sir. Mr. Lacanilao was given a special appointment by the President on that day, sir, on March 11, to represent the Philippines in the Interpol.
Yes, but the representative ng Interpol,
he was the representative, sir.
So dual siya, representative ng Philippines at ng International Interpol.
No, sir. If the structure of the Interpol is that the PCTC, the members of the PCTC, or as instructed by the President, becomes the representative of the Interpol. The Interpol, sir, does not mean that this international police will effect the arrest. The local members of the PCTC
acts as their agent.
Yes,
so
sir.
when it says here, representing the state authorities for the purpose of surrender, Mr. Marcus Lacanilao, in this capacity, was representing the Interpol.
Yes, sir.
Not the Office of the President or the Philippine government.
No, sir.
I'll clarify that kasi usually pag special envoy, you're representing the government.
He was properly documented and appointed, sir.
Sige. Dati Lacanilao lang, ngayon medyo mas malinaw. No. Yes, okay. So, factual lang. Agree to disagree on the other issues. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you to...
Ang inang hearing
Okay. at this juncture and due to the lateness of the hour, I'd like to get rid of some housekeeping. Matapos lang, gusto ko lang ipakita yung arig na orig nating defender ng ICC dito sa Senado. Balikan lang natin ang dating Senadora Miriam Defensor Santiago po.
Puta, mukhang nilinis pa nila si Bangag
As a benchmark in the progressive development of international human rights, the court represents a triumph of international criminal justice by establishing individual criminal liability for those responsible for serious violations of the Rome Statute. The salient features of the Rome Statute are as follows. Bullet, principle of complementarity, spelled P-L-E, not P-L-I, complementarity. The court will act only as a court of last resort. It acts only in exceptional cases where a court has failed to bring justice because that court is unwilling or unable to investigate and prosecute those who have the highest responsibility for the most serious crimes of concern to the international community. Kaya nakikita mo na dito na kung mayroong ginawang kasalanan dito sa nakalista na mga jurisdiction ng ICC, ang magbibista niyan ay ang korte doon sa bayan na yon, hindi ang International Criminal Court in The Hague. International Criminal Court, as I said, is a court of last resort. Pag hindi mo mabigyan ng katarungan ang akusado, ayaw mo o kaya hindi mo kaya, ay saka pa lang yan pupunta sa ICC.
Okay, so narinig natin at ito yung diskurso at paliwanag pagkatapos ng ratifikasyon ng ICC dito sa Senado noong 2011. Maliwanag na Court of Last Resort ang ICC at pupunta lang tayo dyan kapag ayaw o hindi kaya ng ating korte dito sa Pilipinas. Ngayon, nangangamba ako pagkat ang SOJ natin sinabi that the families or the victims of the so-called EJK were compelled to sue abroad inasmuch as there was a failure of our justice system. Hindi na gumagana ang ating mga korte. Sa mabilis lang na pananalita, baka naman na isa sa inyo ang pwedeng magpaliwanag dito sa kapalpakan or kawalang kakayahan ng ating korte na umandar. Kasi yun ang sinabi. Pero ang sabi naman ni Senator Santiago, the rule of complementarity, I think the DFA is more than familiar with that. Kabisado natin yan. Lahat ng treaty, complementarity ang sabi eh. Kapag hindi na kinaya o ayaw ng mga korte sa Pilipinas, doon lang tayo hahantong sa ICC. Tama po ba yun?
Mama, pwede akong... Ang ano mo kasi dito, yung mga nagpunta sa ICC, ay sinubukan nila makakuha ng hustisya sa Pilipinas. Ngunit nabigo sila.
Pero sinabi ni Senator Cayetano kanina, ni walang naghain ng kaso dito.
Yung nga, ang problema nga po rito kasi, yung mga nangyari laro na sa Mindanao, wala ho talagang paggalaw ang mga piskal ng panahon na yun. Hindi talaga gumagalaw ang kaso. Kasi...
Ang sinasabi niyo, may pumila?
Merong mga nagreklamo, nagdangkang magreklamo, ngunit wala pong nangyari. Yun ang kaya sila nagpunta sa ICC.
Hihingi kami ng...
Hindi ko sila kilala, ma'am, pero yun nga yung mga nakausap ko na nung ilang mga araw nakaraan, yun sinasabi nila sa amin.
Maraming salamat, pero kung maaari, bigyan kami ng kopya ng DOJ kasi wala kaming kaalaman na ni isang kaso ay nahain sa anumang korte ng Pilipinas. Kung meron kayo...
Ginapin po namin, maghahanap po kami.
Okay, pero parang inaamin ngayon ng ating kabinete, lahat ng mga kinatawan na narito, na yung ating judiciary system, ang ating mga korte, hindi na gumagana.
Ano po, gumagana ang ating judiciary system.
Pero narinig natin ang dakilang senadora na nakalipas na huling hantungan lang ang ICC. Dapat hindi pupunta doon kung hindi talagang palpak na, talagang surrender na talaga.
Ito ilang taon na nga sila nagpunta sa ICC. Hindi lang naman ngayon po yan eh. Sila po yung nagpunta sa ICC noong 2016, 2017. Hindi pa ho, panahon pa ho ni Pangulong Duterte. Nagdedemanda na po sila. Yun ho, dapat maging maliwanag dito.
Sige,
Hindi po sila nagpunta ron nung 3 years ago lang. Nagpunta po sila ron 8 or 9 years ago, nandun na po sila. Kasi marami ho rito yung mga nangyari po sa Davao nung mayor pa ho si President Duterte.
So sana maibigay sa amin ang listahan ng mga kasong hinain nito sa Pilipinas na hindi naman umusad, na talagang walang pag-asang magtagumpay. Isa yon. Ikalawa, nakailang beses na sinasabi ng ating Pangulo paulit-ulit na umaandar ang mga korte dito, mahuhusay ang ating mga huwes at abogado. Bakit biglang inaamin natin na pumalpak ang ating korte?
Ay nga, nagkaroon po tayo ng panahon na talagang wala hong nangyari sa mga kaso na EJK eh. Talagang wala hong nangyari.
Pero may kaso ba?
Nga ho eh, wala nga, may police report nga, wala eh. Ganun ho kahirap imbestigahan ang mga kasong yan. Magsisimula kasi tayo, pag tayo po yung nabigyan ng ulat na may nagdedemanda, ang una po natin hahanapin police report. Kasi at least sila po ang naglalagay ng recording ng lahat ng pangyayari sa kanilang mga komunidad. Kung police report po wala, saan kayo magsisimula ngayon? Tapos sa mga police na ilipat na sa iba't ibang lugar, wala na makausap.
Si General Marbil nandito, si General Torre nandito, siguradong pagtitibayin nila na araw-araw may murder sa blatter ng pulis. Pangkaraniwan na krimen.
Hindi po sa drug war. Hindi po sa drug war.
Yan.
Sa drug war po, wala pong blatter ang pulis. Marami nga walang blatter eh. Ang problema nga ho dito, napakarami hong namatay na ang death certificate nga nakalagay po cardiac arrest, pero may butas po sa ulo mula sa bala.
So tama yung so yun ang sinasabi ninyo, failure of our justice system.
Opo, nung panahon na yun.
So,
nagkaroon tayo ng problema nung panahon na yun na hindi ho talaga maimbestigahan na maayos kasi pati ho ang piskal tinatakot po ng pulis nung panahon na yun eh.
Nung panahon na yun, ngayong panahon ngayon, hindi ba pwedeng magayos?
Hindi ngayon ho, mas maayos ngayon sapagkat sinisigurado po namin na ang piskal at ang pulis ay magkasama mag-imbestiga ng mga krimen. Hindi na ho katulad ng dati. Kung ano sabihin ng pulis, dapat masunod.
Kung mas maayos ngayon, ba't hindi na magpila ng kaso dito sa Pilipinas? Maayos na pala eh. Nag-iba na.
Hindi ko rin pwedeng tanongin yun sa mga nagdepanda sa ICC. Hindi naman po namin hawak yung mga taong yun eh. Hindi ko namin sila kilala.
Ma'am, as a matter of suggestion, if I may, ma'am, as stated by the Secretary of Justice, na yung mga biktima ng EJK, ang mga police report nila ay cardiac arrest pero may buto sa ulo. That numbers in the thousands, ma'am. Why does the Senate try to investigate that and investigate the circumstances surrounding that? Maybe, ma'am, you can come up with a more cohesive report regarding this matter. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, ma'am, on what to do. It is merely a suggestion.
No, I already asked the SOJ earlier kung may listahan.
But there is no investigation, ma'am, into the deaths by cardiac arrest but with a hole in the head.
Kaya nga
Did the Senate investigate that, ma'am? Did the Senate investigate it, ma'am? Did the Senate investigate it? Has the Senate tried to investigate deaths by cardiac arrest but with bullet holes in the head?
Parang nalilito ako kasi yung Kian de los Santos, may 3 pulis na na-convict ng murder. So hindi natin masasabi na talagang
Homicide po. Homicide ang binigay na conviction. Hindi po murder.
Okay.
That is one of several thousand, ma'am.
Nevertheless, hindi masasabi na zero. Kahit pa paano.
Actually, meron na kung hindi ako nagkakamali, 16 na kaso na ang nahalukay ni Dr. Raquel Fortun ng mga taong ang death certificate po ay nagsasabi na walang naging problema pero ang autopsy nakikita pong may butas po sa ulo.
Pero sabi nga ninyo noon hindi pwede dahil natatakot, mag-iilang, hindi kakayanin. Pero ngayon, bakit hindi magpila ng kaso sa Pilipinas?
Ano ho yan?
Nakita natin, sabi mo, may katibayan tayo sa 15. Ayan, kay Dr. Fortun. Andyan, meron nakikita,
marami ho kasing komplikasyon ang pag-iimbestiga ng ganitong kaso.
Di ba lalong komplikado kung nakalat ka rin pa hanggang dahig? Mas madali na dito.
Isang katulad po niyan, yung ballistics. Pag may nangyari pong pagyayari na may binaril o may pinatay, ang dapat po dyan, yung scene of the crime preserved. yung ballistics kinukuha. Wala mang ballistic report, wala mang police report. Kaya pinabayaan po eh. Ito yung na talagang nangyari sa atin na napakatagal na panahon na wala na akong gumagawa ng real evidence. Lahat po testimonial evidence na lang. Kaya nagkakaproblema po talaga ang justice system. Yun po yung kino-correct namin ngayon, ma'am.
Paano nyo i-correct yan kung cold file yan? E di cold file lalo pagdating sa Amsterdam. Kasi pahaba ng pahaba yung panahon. Kung walang katibayan, walang physical evidence, kahit dalhin mo, kaladkarin mo yan sa ICC.
Yung sistema ho ngayon, basta meron hong demanda, kinakailangan pong magsama ang pulis at piskal para naman maging maayos ang kaso. Kasi hindi naman pwede iutos ng pulis sa piskal o iutos ng piskal sa pulis na gawin ang kanya-kanyang trabaho, dapat po magsama sila. Yun po ang gist ng aming training program ngayon between the police enforcers and the fiscals.
Tapos itatransmit pa yan sa ICC, di ba? Di mas mahaba yung proseso, mas matagalan pa tayo, mas kawawa yung mga pinatay o allegedly na murder, mas hahaba pa yung proseso Kung dito, di harap-harapan na lang na matapos na. Hindi po ba?
Sana po magawa natin to hanggang sa mga susunod na taon.
Kasi sabi
ito ay talagang sinisikap namin na talagang baguhin ang sistema. Hindi ko madali, pero di kami nawawalan ng pag-asa na marami na hong pagbabago nangyayari sa sistema natin.
Yes, pwede mag-suspend lang ng 5 minutes or 2 minutes. Everyone can go and have a little boys room break.
Putang inang hearing na yan, buisit. Gaging hearing na to, walang kwenta. Walang manindigan. Dapat contempt mo na, Amy Marcos. Pakita mong hindi ka manggagamit. 2 minutes daw. Water break ng mga buhaya. Mapyang gobyerno. My God. Ano, pagpatuloy pa ba natin to o tigil na tayo? Wala nang patutunguhan. Nagkwentang po pinanginan na yan. Mapyang gobyerno, magkapatid, Boeing, DILJ, Boeing, Rimulya, Diyos ko, DILJ, Rimulya, DOJ, Rimulya. Ang nangyayari sa Pilipinas, walang kwenta. Mapyang mapya. Hoy, patoplok. Puro nakangiwi. Puro nakangiwi pa. Yan ang buhay na yun. Walang kwenta. Parang nilinis lang nila yung ginawa nilang kidnapping. Nilinis lang ni Jaime Marcos. Ano ba yan? Diyos ko, Wawang Pilipinas. Naglinis ng mga bugok. Dapat ang dyan, illegal arrest, dapat yung pinupukos nila kung saan napupunta. Hindi ka na illegal arrest. Pauwi si Tatay Digong. Yan lang dapat. Batas ng mga durugista to sa Pilipinas. Walang kwenta. Pasuspindi, patuloy nyo na yan, mga ubog. Wala talagang mapuntahan to, guys. Walang kwenta to, parang nililinis lang ni nililinis lang ni Jaime, yung hearing ni Jaime Marcos, nililinis lang yung kabulukan ng gobyernong Marcos. Yun pa lang, walang kaso, dapat, wala palang kaso, iuwi mo, ganun dapat sana, Ganun dapat sana ginawa ni Jaime Marcos. O walang kaso, inamin mo walang kaso eh. Walang nag-ano. Hindi, ibalik mo. Ganun dapat ang ending, ibalik mo. Sa live ni Baby Sara, sinabi niya doon na makabalik si Tatay Digong. Ang kauwi talaga si Tatay Digong, wala namang kaso eh. Bantakin mo pala yung nakalagay sa warrant. Gagi, meron pala si Tatay Digong nakalagay doon sa warrant, may inutos daw nag-aasahin, mga kababaihan. Gago naman talaga, oh, grabe ang tindi.
Yung katanungan kung bakit hindi pumila ng kaso dito sa Pilipinas imbes na ICC pagkat ayaw nating tanggapin yung pag-aamin na hindi na talaga umaandar ang korte rito, wala nang bisa ang mga huwes at wala nang pakinabang ang mga abogado. Hindi naman yata katanggap-tanggap yun. Pero kung maaari, yung SOJ, bigyan kami ng listahan ng mga kaso. Ang huli na lang po, yung Article 59 of the Rome Statute, lahat ng tao naging expert na tungkol dyan. Yun nga, anong masasabi natin tungkol sa applicability? Kung talagang yung Rome Statute does not apply kasi hindi na nga tayo party there too, sabi ng DFA. And may Pangilinan versus Cayetano case pa. So, ano ang pakinabang nito? At is it legally binding? Nag-a-apply pa ba ang Article 59, lalo na yung first paragraph, na ginagamit ang pangalan state parties. Samantalang sa second paragraph, which provides for the right to be brought before local courts, ang sinasabi hindi state parties kundi custodial state. So ibig sabihin very liberal ang construction in favor of the accused. Pwede sa sarili niyang bansa o kung saan man siya dinala. Di ba tama po yun? Applicable ba to sa kaso ni Presidente Duterte?
Hindi na ho natin kinikilala ang ICC eh. Hindi na ho tayo kasama sa ICC. Kaya hindi tayo saklaw ng kanyang mga probisyon. Ang amin pong ginamit na batas dito ay Republic Act 9851. Yun po yung international
maritime
naman
tayo dyan sa RA 9851 sa Section 17. Kaya lang, ang gobyerno paulit-ulit na sinasabi na meron tayong obligasyon na tumulong kahit hindi na tayo membro. Kaya nalilito ako, member tayo, tumutulong tayo, pero hindi applicable yung Article 59. Ano ba talaga? Are we or aren't we?
Yun nga ho ang yung pagkakaiba ng pagpaningin natin. Kasi ang tingin ko po, ang mahalaga sa atin ngayon yung domestic law natin. Ngayon, dahil ang ICC ay humingi ng tulong sa Interpol, nangyari po ang lahat.
Ang liwanag po ng Interpol, sinabi ng Interpol, hindi wanted si Presidente Duterte ng Interpol, wanted ng ICC, sila lang ang ginamit na kasangkapan.
Ganun nga ho yun, ganun pa rin. Pero,
hindi ganun yun, pagkaiba. Kasi kung minsan, maraming wanted talaga sa Interpol.
Opo.
Ang pinakamatindi dito sa Pilipinas, yung child pornography, very active po ako dyan, kaya kabisado ko. Kaya nagtataka po ako, hindi naman siya wanted sa Interpol. Interpol tayo ng Interpol, tapos hindi tayo bahagi ng ICC. Ba't nagkaganto?
Hindi naman ho kami nag-withdraw sa ICC ang Pangulong Duterte po. Kaya hindi na tayo kabahagi ng ICC.
Ano namang kinalaman doon? Hindi ini-invoke kasi ninyo yung ICC at yung Interpol. Samantala nga, hindi na nga...
Actually, ang talaga hong ini-invoke namin, Republic Act 9851.
Okay? At ang liwaliwanag naman, miski sa 9851, sa last sentence, must be pursuant to applicable extradition laws. Hindi ba? Ang liwanag
Opo, last sentence po yan, pero mahaba pa yung paragraph bago dumating yan.
Hong Kong Special Admin, di ba, sa Hong Kong SAR versus Olalia, ang liwaliwanag niya, di ba, kinilala talaga ang right for bail nung arestado at accused. Pareho naman to ng Article 59, kasi yung arrested person has a right to apply for interim release. Di pareho rin yun. In effect, dun sa ating mga korte, nagruling sila na halos eksakto ang epekto sa Article 59.
Yan po bahala na po ang ICC dyan. Hindi na ho namin makokontrol.
Ako, ICC na naman.
Andun po kasi ang Pangulo Ang dating Pangulo ay nasa ICC po. Kaya kung meron ho gusto ng provisional liberty, doon ho sila mag-a-apply. Wala na ho kami magagawa doon. In fact, ito yung pinag-uusapan natin, subjudice na naman po ito. Yan naman problema rito.
So yung binabanggit na liberty of abode ni Attorney Medina kanina sa ating konstitusyon, wala nang aplikasyon.
Pero sa akin, ang tingin ko puro sa liberty of abode na yun, parang that's the rule of search warrants eh. Yun po yung aking nakikitang konteksto nun.
Palagay ko hindi naman limitado doon, ano? Anyway, siguro para lang makapag-aral kami ng gusto sa susunod, baka naman makapagbigay kayo ng 2 o 3 pang mga Pilipino na inaresto.
Utos mo na ibalik, gaga!
Na walang warrant of arrest, tapos dinala sa ibang
Mag-hearing
bansa
mo talaga sa
na wala
susunod, no?
namang court order na galing dito.
Marami po yan. Ito po yung mga foreigners, karamihan po. Hindi pa nga Pilipino.
Hindi, ang tinatanong ko po yung Filipino citizen. Kasi syempre yung foreigners...
Ito po, this is a case of first impression. Hindi pa ho nangyayari ito. But I have to posit that it is a case of first impression. Hindi pa ho nangyayari ito sa kasaysayan natin.
Dapat tuldukan mo.
Kaya nalilito po kami kasi yung DOJ dati talagang pinagpipilitan na nag-comply sa Article 59. Ngayon, sinasabi na hindi na kailangan na dalhin sa local authorities at parang yung DOJ may sinasabi na halos judge na kayo. Paano naman nangyari nagkaroon ng judicial powers?
Yun po yung binigay sa atin na options ng batas, 9851, Section 17 po.
Palagay ko hindi tama yun kasi Attorney Medina, talaga bang DOJ was vested by the Constitution with judicial power?
Wala.
Kailan naman po nangyari yun? Sa bahagi ng ating saligang batas naging west ang ating DOJ?
Wala kaming claim to judicial power. Dito po, executive action po ang namin ginawa. In accordance with Section 17.
Pero hindi nga po
Article
alien.
9851.
Hindi nga pwedeng isurrender kasi hindi nga alien. Pilipino man siya.
Hindi ho, malinaw. Gusto basahin ko ulit for the record para malinaw
alam na
po sa
natin
ating
yun.
lahat.
Oo.
Kasi,
Baka naman si Attorney
baka minsan baka nalilimutan natin yung mga nasa saklaw ng batas eh. Babasahin ko po ulit.
Hindi. Alam ko na yun. Oo. Yes, please, Attorney Medina, may dadagdag kayo? Di ba yung Constitution, wala naman judicial power? Kaya pinagpipilitan natin na bumalik sa korte.
I'll be consistent with my previous opinion, Your Honor. The right to liberty can only be, the deprivation of the right to liberty can only be judged by a court of law. Now, even assuming that executive officials would have the power to make a final adjudication on the right to liberty of an individual, at the very least, that individual whose right to liberty is at risk should still be accorded administrative due process at the very least, which means still notice, opportunity to be heard, and a decision by an impartial tribunal. So the fusion, what the Constitution wants to prevent is the fusion of executive and judicial power in the hands of one person. One American constitutional expert declared that as a form of tyranny. So I'm not casting aspersion on the actions of the executive officials involved. I'm sure they consider the legality, and I'm sure they're willing to present clear legal basis for their actions. It's a matter for the courts to settle po. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat, Attorney. Ang tinutukoy ko, SOJ Remulla, etong sinabi ni ASEC Nico Clavano, March 13, sinabi niya the Justice Department and the prosecutors can be considered competent judicial authority. Hindi po kayo nagsabi nito, kundi prosecutors were present during the service of the warrant and somehow they magically turned into the judiciary.
Then, if that is your opinion, ma'am, I will
It's not
respect
my
your
opinion. I'm just quoting the statement derived from your spokesman, sir.
I'm sure that that was meant in a figurative manner, ma'am. It's not meant literally.
Ipapatuloy ko, kapag sinabi natin na kailangan padalhin sa korte dahil siya ay mag-a-attest, yung judge naman po, wala naman doon. Hindi naman niya na-witness yung pag-serve ng warrant hanggang sa pagbasa ng Miranda rights. So sabi niya, yung complementarity, hindi naman na importante until such time as the state is unwilling or unable to prosecute the same crime. So parang naging judge na rin yung SOJ. Papayag ba kayo ng ganon? Yun lang ang tanong.
Hindi po yun ang aming gustong sabihin dito. Yun po mga salitang ginamit lamang dahil sa sitwasyon ng pinag-uusapan. Ngunit wala akong intensyon na sabihin kami po ay hukuman. Hindi po kami hukuman.
Maraming salamat sa paliwanag dahil lihis ito sa sinabi ninyo ng budget hearing noong nakaraan na taon na hindi judicial authority ang SOJ. Hindi katulad ng sinabi ng spokesman ninyo, kundi kinakailangan bumalik at bumalik pa rin sa korte na Pilipino dito sa ating bansa. Maraming salamat. Wala na po akong tanong at napakahaba na po ng hearing. Nagpapaumanhin ako sa inyong lahat. This hearing of the Committee on Foreign Relations is hereby suspended. Maraming salamat sa lahat ng cabinet member na nagbigay ng panahon para sa atin. Maraming salamat po.
Nagdogsyo lang to Attorney Delgra, Atoryon, dapat pinatawag yun Abogado side ni Tatay Digong wala. Si Hanilet dapat pinatawag. Bugos, hearing animal, walang kwenta. Nilinis si Bangag.